Robert Bridges. Poet Laureate. London Humphrey Milford Catharini HVNC Librum qui fila Ives carissimi pote debitam ingenio laudum expectantis servum monumentum esset, and mitatis 98 agenti veteris amicici pines DDDRB. Transcriber's notes. The poems of Gerard Manley Hopkins contain unconventional English, accents, and horizontal lines. Facsimile images of the poems as originally published are freely available online from the Internet Archive. Please use these images to check for any errors or inadequacies in this electronic text. The editor's endnotes refer to the page numbers of the author's preface and to the first page of the early poems. I have therefore inserted these page numbers in round brackets, 1, 2, etc. up to 7. For pages 1 to 7, the line numbers in this electronic version are the same as those referred to in the editor's endnotes. After page 7, this text mainly follows the editor's endnotes, which, apart from the occasional page reference, refer to the poems by their numbers. For example, 5. Penmean Pool. In poem 26, I have retained the larger than normal spacing between the first and second words of the 8th line. In poem 36, I have rendered the first word of line 28 as 1. In the original, the accent falls on the second letter, but I did not have a text character to record this accurately. The editor's notes contain one word and, later, one phrase from the ancient Greek. These are retained, but the Greek letters have been Englished. Editorial. Preface to Notes. Notes. Our generation already is overpast, and thy loved legacy, Gerard, hath lain coy in my home, as once thy heart was fain of shelter, when God's terror held thee fast in life's wildwood at beauty and sorrow aghast. Thy sainted sense trammed in ghostly pain, thy rare ill-brokered talent in disdain, yet love of Christ will win man's love at last. Hell wars without, but dear, the while my hands gathered thy book, I heard, this wintry day, thy spirit thank me, in his young delight stepping again upon the yellow sands. Go forth, amidst our chaffinch flock display thy plumage of far wonder and heavenward flight. Chilswell, January 1918. 1. Author's Preface. The poems in this book asterisk, that is, the MS, described in editor's preface as B. This preface does not apply to the early poems. Are written some in running rhythm, the common rhythm in English use, some in sprung rhythm, and some in a mixture of the two. And those in the common rhythm are some counterpoint, some not. Common English rhythm, called running rhythm above, is measured by feet of either 2 or 3 syllables and, putting aside the imperfect feet at the beginning and end of lines and also some unusual measures, in which feet seem to be paired together, and double or composite feet to arise, never more or less. Every foot has one principal stress or accent, and this or the syllable it falls on may be called the stress of the foot, and the other part, the 1 or 2 unaccented syllables, the slack. Feet, and the rhythms made out of them, in which the stress comes first, are called falling feet and falling rhythms. Feet and rhythm in which the slack comes first are called rising feet and rhythms. And if the stress is between 2 slacks, there will be rocking feet and rhythms. These distinctions are real and true to nature, but for purposes of scanning it is a great convenience to follow the 2 example of music and take the stress always first, as the accent or the chief accent always comes first in a musical bar. If this is done, there will be in common English verse only 2 possible feet, the so-called accentual trochee and dactyl, and correspondingly only 2 possible uniform rhythms, the so-called trochaic and dactylic. But they may be mixed, and then what the Greeks called a logoetic rhythm arises. These are the facts, and according to these the scanning of ordinary regularly written English verse is very simple indeed, and to bring in other principles is here unnecessary. But because verse written strictly in these feet and by these principles will become same and tame, the poets have brought in licenses and departures from rule to give variety, and especially when the natural rhythm is rising, as in the common 10-syllable or 5-foot verse, rhymed or blank. These irregularities are chiefly reverse feet and reversed or counterpoint rhythm, which 2 things are 2 steps or degrees of license in the same kind. By a reversed foot I mean the putting the stress where, to judge by the rest of the measure, the slack should be, and the slack where the stress, and this is done freely at the beginning of a line and, in the course of a line, after a pause, only scarcely ever in the second foot or place and never in the last, unless when the poet designs some extraordinary effect, for these places are characteristic and sensitive, and cannot well be touched. But the reversal of the first foot, and of some middle, 3 foot after a strong pause, is a thing so natural that our poets have generally done it, from Chaucer down, without remark, and it commonly passes unnoticed, and cannot be said to amount to a formal change of rhythm, but rather is that irregularity which all natural growth and motion shews. If, however, the reversal is repeated in 2 feet running, especially so as to include the sensitive second foot, it must be due either to great want of ear or else is a calculated effect, the superinducing or mounting of a new rhythm upon the old. And since the new or mounted rhythm is actually heard, and at the same time the mind naturally supplies the natural or standard foregoing rhythm. For we do not forget what the rhythm is that by rights we should be hearing. 2 rhythms are in some manner running at once, and we have something answerable to counterpoint in music, which is 2 or more strains of tune going on together, and this is counterpoint rhythm. Of this kind of verse Milton is the great master, and the choruses of Samson Agonists are written throughout in it, but with the disadvantage that he does not let the reader clearly know what the ground rhythm is meant to be, and so they have struck most readers as merely irregular. And in fact, if you counterpoint throughout, since one only of the counter rhythms is actually heard, the other is really destroyed or cannot come to exist, and what is written is one rhythm only, and probably sprung rhythm, of which I now speak. Sprung rhythm, as used in this book, is measured by feet of from 1 to 4 syllables, regularly, and for particular effects any number of weak or slack syllables may be used. It has one stress, which falls on the only syllable, if there is only one, or, if there are more, then scanning as above, on the first, and so gives rise to 4 sorts of feet, a monosyllable and the so-called accentual trochee, dactyl, and the first paean. And there will be 4 corresponding natural rhythms, but nominally the feet are mixed and any one may follow any other. And hence sprung rhythm differs from running rhythm in having or being only one nominal rhythm, a mixed or logoetic one, instead of 3, but on the other hand in having twice the flexibility of foot, so that any 2 stresses may either follow one another running or be divided by 1, 2, or 3 slack syllables. But strict sprung rhythm cannot be counterpoint. In sprung rhythm, as in logoetic rhythm generally, the feet are assumed to be equally long or strong, and their seeming inequality is made up by pause or stressing. Remark also that it is natural in sprung rhythm for the lines to be rove over, that is, for the scanning of each line immediately to take up that of the one before, so that if the first has 1 or more syllables at its end the other must have so many the less at its beginning, and in fact the scanning runs on without break from the beginning, say, of a stanza to the end, and all the stanza is one long strain, though written in lines asunder. 2 licenses are natural to sprung rhythm. The one is rest, as in music, but of this an example is scarcely to be found in this book, unless in the echoes, 5, second line. The other is hangers or outrides, that is 1, 2, or 3 slack syllables added to a foot, and not counting in the nominal scanning. They are so called because they seem to hang below the line or ride forward or backward from it in another dimension than the line itself, according to a principle needless to explain here. These outriding half feet or hangers are marked by a loop underneath them, and plenty of them will be found. The other marks are easily understood, namely accents, where the reader might be in doubt which syllables should have the stress, slurs, that is loops over syllables, to tie them together into the time of one, little loops at the end of a line to shew that the rhyme goes on to the first letter of the next line, what in music are called pauses, to shew that the syllables should be dwelt on, and twirls, to mark reversed or counterpoint rhythm. Note on the nature and history of sprung rhythm. Sprung rhythm is the most natural of things. For 1, it is the rhythm of common speech and of written prose, when rhythm is perceived in them. 2, it is the rhythm of all but the most monotonously regular music, so that in the words of choruses and refrains and in songs written closely to music it arises. 3, it is found in nursery rhymes, weather saws, and so on, because, however these may have been once made in running rhythm, the terminations having dropped off by the change of language, the stresses come together, and so the rhythm is sprung. 4, it arises in common, 6, verse when reversed or counterpoint, for the same reason. But nevertheless, in spite of all this, and though Greek and Latin lyric verse, which is well known, and the Old English verse seen in Pierce Plowman are in sprung rhythm, It has in fact ceased to be used since the Elizabethan age, Green being the last writer who can be said to have recognized it. For perhaps there was not, down to our days, a single, even short, poem in English in which sprung rhythm is employed not for single effects or in fixed places but as the governing principle of the scansion. I say this because the contrary has been asserted. If it is otherwise, the poem should be cited. Some of the sonnets in this book see previous note, are in 5-foot, some in 6-foot or Alexandrine lines. Numbers 13 and 22 are curtal sonnets, that is, they are constructed in proportions resembling those of the sonnet proper, namely 6+4 instead of 8+6, with however a half-line tailpiece, so that the equation is rather 12/8 plus 9/2 equals 21 halves plus 10.5. 7. Early poems. One for a picture of St. Dorothea. I bear a basket lined with grass. I am so light, I am so fair, that men must wonder as I pass, and at the basket that I bear, where in a newly drawn green litter sweet flowers I carry, sweets for bitter. Lilies I shew you, lilies none in Caesar's gardens blow, and a quince in hand, not one is set upon your boughs below, not set, because their buds not spring not, cause world is wintering. But these were found in the east and south where winter is the clime forgot. The dewdrop on the larkspur's mouth, oh should it then be quenched not? In starry watermeads they drew these drops, which be they? Stars or dew? Had she a quince in hand? Yet gaze, rather it is the sizing moon. Lo, linked heavens with milky ways. That was her larkspur row. So soon? Sphered so fast, sweet soul, we see nor fruit, nor flowers, nor Dorothy. To heaven, haven anon takes the veil. I have desired to go where springs not fail, to fields where flies nose sharp and sided hail, and a few lilies blow. And I have asked to be where no storms come, where the green swell is in the havens dumb, and out of the swing of the sea. 3. The habit of perfection. Elected silence, sing to me and beat upon my whorled ear, pipe me to pastures still and be the music that I care to hear. Shape nothing, lips, be lovely dumb, it is the curfew sent from there where all surrenders come which only makes you eloquent. Be shelled eyes, with double dark and find the uncreated light, this ruck and reel which you remark coils, keeps, and teases simple sight. Palate, the hutch of tasty lust, desire not to be rinsed with wine, the can must be so sweet, the crust so fresh that come in fasts divine. Nostrils, your careless breath that spend upon the stir and keep of pride, what relish shall the censers send along the sanctuary side? O feel of primrose hands, O feet that want the yield of plushy sward, but you shall walk the golden street, and you unhouse and house the Lord. And poverty, be thou the bride, and now the marriage feast begun, and lily-colored clothes provide your spouse not labored at nor spun. Poems 1876 to 1889. For the wreck of the Deutschland. To the happy memory of 5 Franciscan nuns exiles by the Falk laws drowned between midnight and morning of December 7, 1875. Part the First. 1. Thou mastering me God, giver of breath and bread, world strand, sway of the sea, Lord of living and dead, thou hast bound bones and veins in me, fastened me flesh, and after it almost unmade, what with dread thy doing, and dost thou touch me afresh? Over again I feel thy finger and find thee. 2. I did say yes, O a lightning and lashed rod, thou heardst me truer than tongue confess thy terror, O Christ, O God, thou knowest the walls, altar and hour and night, the swoon of a heart that the sweep and the hurl of thee trod hard down with a horror of height, and the midriff a strain with leaning of, laced with fire of stress. 3. The frown of his face before me, the hurdle of hell behind, where was a place? I whirled out wings that spell and fled with a fling of the heart to the heart of the host. My heart, but you were dove-winged, I can tell, carrier-witted, I am bold to boast, to flash from the flame to the flame then, tower from the grace to the grace. For I am soft sift in an hourglass, at the wall fast, bemined with a motion, adrift, and it crowds and it combs to the fall. I steady as a water in a well, to a poise, to a pain, but roped with, always, all the way down from the tall fells or flanks of the vole, a vein of the gospel proffer, a pressure, a principle, Christ's gift. 5. I kiss my hand to the stars, loveliest under starlight, wafting him out of it, and glory and thunder. Kiss my hand to the dappled with damson west, since, though he is under the world's splendor and wonder, his mystery must be stressed, for I greet him the days I meet him, and bless when I understand. 6. Not out of his bliss springs the stress felt nor first from heaven, and few know this, swings the stroke dealt, stroke and a stress that stars and storms deliver, that guilt is hushed by, hearts are flushed by and melt, but it rides time like riding a river, and here the faithful waver, the faithless fable and miss. 7. It dates from day of his going in Galilee, warm laid grave of a womb life grey, manger, maiden's knee, the dense and the driven passion, and frightful sweat, thence the discharge of it, there its swelling to be, though felt before, though in high flood yet, what none would have known of it, only the heart, being hard at bay. 8. Is out with it. Oh, we lash with the best or worst word last. How a lush kept plush cap slow will, mouth to flesh burst, gush, flush the man, the being with it, sour or sweet, brim, in a flash, full, hither then, last or first, to hero of Calvary, Christ's feet, never ask if meaning it, wanting it, warned of it, men go. 9. Be adored among men, God, three-numbered form, ring thy rebel, dogged in den, man's malice, with wrecking and storm. Beyond saying sweet, past telling of tongue, thou art lightning and love, I found it, a winter and warm, Father and fondler of heart thou hast wrung, hast thy dark descending and most art merciful then. 10. With an anvil ding and with fire in him forge thy will, or rather than, stealing as spring through him, melt him but master him still, whether at once, as once at a crash Paul, or as Austin, a lingering out sweet skill, make mercy in all of us, out of us all mastery, but be adored, King. Part the 2nd. 11. Some find me a sword, some the flange and the rail, flame, fang, or flood goes death on drum, and storms bugle his fame. But we dream we are rooted in earth, dust. Flesh falls within sight of us, we, though our flower the same, wave with the meadow, forget that there must the sour scythe cringe, and the blear share come. 12. On Saturday sailed from Bremen, American outward bound, take settler and seaman, tell men with women, 200 souls in the round. O Father, not under thy feathers nor ever as guessing the goal was a shoal, of a fourth the doom to be drowned, yet did the dark side of the bay of thy blessing not vault them, the million of rounds of thy mercy not reeve even them in. 13. Into the snows she sweeps, hurling the haven behind, the Deutschland, on Sunday, and so the sky keeps, for the infinite air is unkind, and the sea flint-flake, black-backed in the regular blow, sitting east-northeast, in cursed quarter, the wind, wiry and white fiery and whirlwind-swiveled snow spins to the widow-making unchilding unfathering deeps. 14. She drove in the dark to leeward, she struck, not a reef or a rock but the combs of a smother of sand, night drew her dead to the Kentish knock, and she beat the bank down with her bows and the ride of her keel, the breakers rolled on her beam with ruinous shock, and canvas and compass, the whirl and the wheel idle forever to waft her or wind her with, these she endured. 15. Hope had grown grey hairs, hope had mourning on, trenched with tears, carved with cares, hope was 12 hours gone, and frightful a nightfall folded rueful a day nor rescue, only rocket and lightship shone, and lives at last were washing away. To the shrouds they shook in the hurling and horrible airs. 16. One stirred from the rigging to save the wild womankind below, with a rope's end round the man, handy and brave, he was pitched to his death at a blow, for all his dreadnought breast and braids of thew, they could tell him for hours, dandled the to and fro through the cobbled foam fleece, what could he do with the burl of the fountains of air, buck and the flood of the wave? 17. They fought with God's cold, and they could not and fell to the deck, crushed them, or water, and drowned them, or rolled with the sea romp over the wreck. Night roared, with the heartbreak hearing a heartbroke rabble, the woman's wailing, the crying of child without check, till a lioness arose breasting the babel, a prophetess towered in the tumult, a virginal tongue told. 18. Ah, touched in your bower of bone are you? Turned for an exquisite smart, have you? Make words break from me here all alone, do you, mother of being in me, heart? Oh, unteachably after evil, but uttering truth, why, tears. Is it? Tears, such a melting, a madrigal start. Never aldering revel and river of youth, what can it be, this glee? The good you have there of your own? 19th sister, a sister calling a master, her master and mine, and the inboard seas run swirling and bawling. The rash, smart, slobbering brine blinds her, but she that weather sees one thing, has one fetch in her, she rears herself to divine ears, and the call of the tall nun to the men in the tops and the tackle rowed over the storms brawling. 20 She was first of a 5 and came of a coiffed sisterhood. O Deutschland, double a desperate name! O world wide of its good! But Gertrude, Lily, and Luther are 2 of a town, Christ's lily and beast of the waste wood. From life's dawn it is drawn down, Abel is Cain's brother and breasts they have sucked the same. 21 Loathed for a love men knew in them, banned by the land of their birth, Rhine refused them. Thames would ruin them, surf, snow, river and earth gnashed, but thou art above, thou Orion of light, thy unchancelling poising palms were weighing the worth, thou martyr master, in thy sight storm flakes were scroll-leaved flowers, lily showers, sweet heaven was astray in them. 22:5 The finding and sake and cipher of suffering Christ. Mark, the mark is of man's make and the word of it sacrificed. But he scores it in scarlet himself on his own bespoken, before time taken, dearest prized and priced, stigma, signal, sinkfold token for lettering of the lamb's fleece, ruddying of the roseflake. 23 Joy fall to thee, Father Francis, drawn to the life that died, with the gnarls of the nails in the niche of the lance, his love's cape crucified and seal of his seraph arrival. And these thy daughters and 5 lived and leaved favor and pride, are sisterly sealed in wild waters, to bathe in his fall-gold mercies, to breathe in his all-fire glances. 24 Away in the lovable west, on a pastoral forehead of Wales, I was under a roof here, I was at rest, and they the prey of the gales, she to the black about air, to the breaker, the thickly falling flakes, to the throng that catches and quails, was calling, O Christ, Christ come quickly. The cross to her she calls, Christ to her, christens her wild-worn best. 25 The majesty. What did she mean? Breathe, arch and original breath. Is it love in her of the being as her lover had been? Breathe, body of lovely death. They were else minded then, altogether, the men woke thee with a we are perishing in the weather of Gennesareth. Or is it that she cried for the crown then, the keener to come at the comfort for feeling the combating keen? 26 For how to the heart's cheering the down-dogged ground-hugged grey hovers off, the jay-blue heavens appearing of pied and peeled May. Blue beating and hoary glow height, or night, still higher, with belled fire and the mouth-soft Milky Way, what by your measure is the heaven of desire, the treasure never eyesight got, nor was ever guessed what for the hearing. 27 No, but it was not these. The jading and jar of the cart, time's tasking, it is fathers that asking for ease of the sodden with its sorrowing heart, not danger, electrical horror. Then further it finds the appealing of the passion is tenderer in prayer apart. Other, I gather, in measure her mind's burden, in wind's burly and beat of Andragon seas. 28 But how shall I make me room there? Reach me a fancy, come faster, strike you the sight of it? Look at it loom there, thing that she, there then. The master ipsi, the only one, Christ, King, head, he was to cure the extremity where he had cast her, deal, lord it with living and dead, let him ride, her pride, in his triumph, dispatch and have done with his doom there. 29 Ah! There was a heart right. There was single eye. Read the unshapable shock night and knew the who and the why, wording it how but by him that present and past, heaven and earth are worded by, the Simon Peter of a soul. To the blast Tarpeian fast, but a blown beacon of light. 30 Jesu, heart's light, Jesu, made sun, what was the feast followed the night thou hadst glory of this nun? Feast of the one woman without stain. For so conceived, so to conceive thee is done. But here was heart throw, birth of a brain, word, that heard and kept thee and uttered thee outright. 31 Well, she has thee for the pain, for the patience, but pity of the rest of them. Heart, go and bleed at a bitterer vein for the comfortless unconfessed of them. No, not uncomforted, lovely felicitous Providence finger of a tender of a feathery delicacy. The breast of the maiden could obey so, be a bell to ring of it, and startle the poor sheep back. Is the shipwreck then a harvest? Does tempest carry the grain for thee? 32 I admire the sea, master of the tides, of the your flood, of the year's fall, the recurb and the recovery of the gulf sides, the girth of it, and the wharf of it, and the wall, stanching, quenching ocean of emotionable mind, ground of being, and granite of it, past all grasped God, throned behind death with a sovereignty that heeds but hides, bodes but abides. 33 With a mercy that outrides the all of water, an ark for the listener, for the lingerer with a love glides lower than death and the dark, a vein for the visiting of the past prayer, pent in prison, the last breath penitent spirits, the uttermost mark our passion plunge giant risen, the Christ of the Father compassionate, fetched in the storm of his strides. 34 Now burn, new born to the world, doubled nature name, the heaven flung, heart fleshed, maiden furled miracle in Mary of flame, mid-numbered he in 3 of the thunder throne. Not a doomsday dazzle in his coming nor dark as he came, kind, but royally reclaiming his own, a release shower, let flash to the shire, not a lightning of fire hard hurled. 35 Dame, at our door drowned, and among our shoals, remember us in the roads, the heaven haven of the reward, our King back, oh, upon English souls! Let him Easter in us, be a dayspring to the dimness of us, be a crimson crescent east, more brightening her, rare dear Britain, as his reign rolls, pride, rose, prince, hero of us, high priest, our hearts charity's hearth's fire, our thoughts chivalry's thrones lord. 5 Penmean Pool. For the visitor's book at the inn, who long for rest, who look for pleasure away from counter, court, or school, or where live well your lease of leisure, but here at Penmean Pool. You'll dare the Alp? You'll dart the skiff, each sport has here its tackle and tool. Come, plant the staff by Cadair Cliff, come, swing the sculls on Penmean Pool. What's yonder? Grizzled dyphwys dim, the triple hummock giant's stool, hoar messmate, Hobbs and Nobbs with him to have the bowl of Penmean Pool. And all the landscape under survey at tranquil turns by nature's rule, rides repeated topsy-turvy and frank, in fairy Penmean Pool. And Charles's Wain, the wondrous 7, and sheep flock clouds like worlds of wool. For all they shine so, high in heaven, shew brighter shaken in Penmean Pool. The Maud Dak, how she trips! Though throttled if flood-tide teeming thrills her full, and mazy sands all water-wattled waylay her at ebb, past Penmean Pool. But what's to see in stormy weather, when grey showers gather and gusts are cool? Why, raindrop roundels loop together that lace the face of Penmean Pool. Then even in weariest wintry hour of New Year's month or surly Yule-furred snows, charge tuft above tuft, tower from darksome Penmean Pool. And ever, if bound here hardest home, you've parlour pastime left, and who'll not honour it? Ale like goldy foam that frocks an oar in Penmean Pool. Then come who pine for peace or pleasure away from counter, court, or school, spend here your measure of time and treasure, and taste the treats of Penmean Pool. 6 The Silver Jubilee. To James, 1st Bishop of Shrewsbury on the 25th year of his episcopate, July 28, 1876. One though no high-hung bells or din of braggart bugles cry it in, what is sound? Nature's round makes the silver jubilee. 25 years have run since sacred fountains to the sun sprang, that but now were shut, showering silver jubilee. 3 feasts, when we shall fall asleep, Shrewsbury may see others keep, none but you this her true, this her silver jubilee. For not today we need lament your wealth of life is some way spent, toil has shed round your head silver but for jubilee. 5 Then for her whose velvet valleys should have pealed with welcome wails, let the chime of a rhyme utter silver jubilee. 7 God's grandeur. The world is charged with the grandeur of God. It will flame out, like shining from shook foil, it gathers to a greatness, like the ooze of oil crushed. Why do men then now not reck his rod? Generations have trod, and all is seared with trade, bleared, smeared with toil, and wears man's smudge and shares man's smell. The soil is bare now, nor can foot feel, being shod. And for all this, nature is never spent, there lives the dearest freshness deep down things, and though the last lights off the black west went morning, at the brown brink eastward springs, because the Holy Ghost over the bent world broods with warm breast and with bright wings. 8 The starlight night. Look at the stars. Look, look up at the skies. Oh, look at all the fire folk sitting in the air. The bright burrows, the circle citadels there. Down in dim woods the diamond delves. The elves' eyes. The grey lawns cold where quick gold lies. Wind beat white beam. Area beels set on a flare. Flake doves sent floating forth at a farmyard scare. Ah well. It is all a purchase, all is a prize. Buy then. Bid then, what? Prayer, patience, alms, vows. Look, look, a Maymess, like on orchard boughs. Look! March bloom, like on mealed with yellow sallows. These are indeed the barn, within doors house the shocks. This peace-bright paling shuts the spouse Christ home, Christ and his mother, and all his hallows. 9 Spring. Nothing is so beautiful as spring, when weeds, in wheels, shoot long and lovely and lush. Thrush's eggs look little low heavens, and thrush through the echoing timber does so rinse and ring the ear, it strikes like lightnings to hear him sing. The glassy pear tree leaves and blooms, they brush the descending blue, that blue is all in a rush with richness. The racing lambs too have fared their fling. What is all this juice and all this joy? A strain of the earth's sweet being in the beginning in Eden garden. Have, get, before it cloy, before it cloud, Christ, Lord, and sour with sinning, innocent mind and Mayday and girl and boy most, O maid's child, thy choice and worthy the winning. 10 The lantern out of doors. Sometimes a lantern moves along the night, that interests our eyes. And who goes there? I think, where from inbound I wonder where, with all down darkness wide, his waiting light? Men go by me whom either beauty bright in mold or mind or what not else makes rare, they rain against our much thick and marsh air rich beams, till death or distance buys them quite. Death or distance soon consumes them, wind what most I may I after, be in at the end I cannot, and out of sight is out of mind. Christ's minds, Christ's interest, what to avow or amend there, eyes them, heart wants, care haunts, foot follows kind, their ransom, their rescue, and first, fast, last friend. 11 The sea and the skylark. On ear and ear two noises too old to entrench, right, the tide that ramps against the shore, with a flood or a fall, low lull off or all roar, frequenting there while moon shall wear and when. Left hand, off land, I hear the lark ascend, his rash fresh rewind new skein score in crisps of curl off wild winch whirl, and pour and pelt music, till none's to spill nor spend. How these two shame this shallow and frail town! How wring right out our sordid turbid time, being pure! We, life's pride and cared for crown, have lost that cheer and charm of earth's past prime. Our make and making break, our breaking, down to man's last dust, drain fast towards man's first slime. 12 The wind hover. To Christ our Lord _. I caught this morning's minion, kingdom of daylight's dauphin, dappled on drawn falcon, in his riding of the rolling level underneath him steady air, and striding high there, how he rung upon the rein of a wimpling wing in his ecstasy. Then off forth on swing, as a skate's heel sweeps smooth on a bow bend, the hurl and gliding rebuff the big wind. My heart in hiding stirred for a bird, the achieve of, the mastery of the thing. Brute beauty and valor and act, oh air, pride, plume, here buckle. And the fire that breaks from thee then, a billion times told lovelier, more dangerous, oh my chevalier. No wonder of it, sheer plod makes plough down Silion shine, and blue bleak embers, ah my dear, fall, gall themselves, and gash gold vermilion. 13 Pied beauty. Glory be to God for dappled things, for skies of couple color as a brined cow, for rose moles all in stipple upon trout that swim, fresh fire-cold chestnut falls, finches' wings, landscape plotted and pieced, fold, fallow, and plough, and all trades, their gear and tackle and trim. All things counter, original, spare, strange, whatever is fickle, freckled, who knows how, with swift, slow, sweet, sour, adazzle, dim, he fathers forth whose beauty is past change, praise him. 14 Hurrahing in harvest. Summer ends now, barbarous in beauty, the stooks rise around, up above, what wind walks! What lovely behavior of silk sack clouds! Has wilder Wilful wavier meal drift molded ever and melted across skies? I walk, I lift up heart, eyes, down all that glory in the heavens to glean our Savior. And eyes, heart, what looks, what lips yet gave you a rapturous love's greeting of realer, of rounder replies? And the azurous hung hills are his world-wielding shoulder majestic, as a stallion stalwart, very violet sweet. These things were here and but the beholder wanting, which two when they once meet, the heart rears wings bold and bolder and hurls for him, oh half hurls earth for him off under his feet. 15 Caged Skylark. As a dare-gale skylark scant in a dull caged man's mounting spirit in his bone house, mean house, dwells, that bird beyond the remembering his free fells, this in drudgery, day laboring out life's age. Though aloft on turf or perch or poor low stage, both sing sometimes the sweetest spells, yet both droop deadly sometimes in their cells or ring their barriers in bursts of fear or rage. Not that the sweet fowl, song-fowl, needs no rest. Why, hear him babble and drop down to his nest, but his own nest, wild nest, no prison. Man's spirit will be flesh-bound when found at best, but uncumbered, meadow down is not distressed for a rainbow footing it nor he for his bones risen. 16 In the Valley of the Elwey. I remember a house where all were good to me, God knows, deserving no such thing, comforting smell breathed at very entering, fetched fresh, as I suppose, off some sweet wood. That cordial air made those kind people a hood all over, as a bevy of eggs the mothering wing will, or mild nights the new morsels of spring. Why, it seemed of course, seemed of right it should. Lovely the woods, waters, meadows, combes, valleys, all the air things where that build this world of Wales. Only the inmate does not correspond. God, lover of souls, swaying considerate scales, complete thy creature dear oh where it fails, being mighty a master, being a father and fond. 17 The Loss of the Eurydice. Foundered March 24th, 1878 1 The Eurydice, it concerned thee, O Lord, 300 souls, oh alas! On board, some asleep unawakened, all unwarned, 11 fathoms fallen. 2 Where she foundered. One stroke felled and furled them, the hearts of oak. And flock elves off the aerial downs 4 falls beat to the burial. 3 For did she pride her, freighted fully, on bounden bales or a hoard of bullion, precious passing measure, lads and men her laid in treasure. For she had come from a cruise, training seamen, men, bold boys soon to be men, must it, worst weather, blast bowl and bloom together? 5 No Atlantic squall overwrought her or rearing billow of the Biscay water, home was hard at hand and the blow bore from land. 6 And you were a liar, O blue March day. Bright sun lanced fire in the heavenly bay, but what black Boreas wrecked her? He came equipped, deadly electric. 7 A beetling ball bright cloud thorough England riding, there did storms not mingle? And hail-opes hustle and grind their heaven gravel? Wool snow, worlds of it, wind there? 8 Now Carisbrooke keep goes under in gloom, now it overvaults Appledurcombe, now near by Ventnor town it hurls off Boniface down. 9 Too proud, what a press she bore! Royal, and all her royals wore. Sharp with her, shortened sail. Too late, lost, gone with the gale. 10 This was that fell capsize, as half she had righted and hoped to rise, death teeming in by her portholes raced down decks, round messes of mortals. 11 Then a lurch forward, frigate and men, all hands for themselves the cry ran then, but she who had housed them thither was around them, bound them or wound them with her. 12 Marcus Hare, high her captain, kept to her, cared round and wrapped in shears death, would follow his charge through the champ white water in a wallow. 13 All under channel to bury in a beach her cheeks, right, rude of feature, he thought he heard say her commander. And now too, and now this way. 14 It is even seen, times something server, in mankind's medley a duty swerver, at downright no or yes, doffs all, drives full for righteousness. 15 Sidney Fletcher, Bristol bred, low lie his mates now on watery bed, takes to the seas and snows as sheer down the ship goes. 16 Now her afterdraft gullies him too down, now he rings for breath with the death gush brown, till a life belt and gods will lend him a lift from the sea swill. 17 Now he shoots short up to the round air, Now he gasps, now he gazes everywhere, but his eye no cliff, no coast or mark makes in the reveling snowstorm. 18 Him, after an hour of wintry waves, a schooner sights, with another, and saves, and he boards her in such joy he has lost count what came next, poor boy. 19 They say who saw one sea corpse cold he was all of lovely manly mold, every inch a tar, of the best we boast our sailors are. 20 Look, foot to forelock, how all things suit. He is strung by duty, is strained to beauty, and brown as dawning skinned with brine and shine and whirling wind. 21 Oh his nimble finger, his gnarled grip. Leagues, leagues of seamanship slumber in these forsaken bones, the sinew, and will not waken. 22 He was but one like thousands more, day and night I deplore my people and born own nation, fast foundering own generation. 23 I might let bygones be, our curse of ruinous shrine no hand or, worse, robbery's hand is busy to dress, or hallowed shrines unvisited. 24 Only the breathing temple and fleet life, this wildworth blown so sweet, these dare deaths, this crew, in unchrist, all rolled in ruin. 25 Deeply surely I need to deplore it, wondering why my master bore it, the riving off that race so at home, time was, to his truth and grace. 26 That a starlight wender of ours would say the marvelous milk was Walsingham way and won. But let be, more than was will yet be. 27 Oh well wept, mother have lost son, wept, wife, wept, sweetheart would be won, though grief yield them no good yet shed what tears sad true love should. 28 But to Christ Lord of thunder crouch, lay knee by earth low under, holiest, loveliest, bravest, save my hero, O hero savest. 29 And the prayer thou heardst me making have, at the awful overtaking, have heard and granted grace that day grace was wanted. 30 Not that hell knows redeeming, but for souls sunk and seeming fresh, till dew fire burn all, prayer shall fetch pity eternal. 18 The May Magnificat. May is Mary's month, and I muse at that and wonder why her feasts follow reason, dated due to season. Candlemas, Lady Day, but the Lady month, May, why fasten that upon her, with a feasting in her honor? Is it only its being brighter than the most or must delight her? Is it opportunest and flowers find soonest? Ask of her, the mighty mother, her reply puts this other question, what is spring, growth in everything? Flesh and fleece, fur and feather, grass and green world all together, star-eyed strawberry-breasted throstle above her nested. Cluster of bugle blue eggs thin forms and warms the life within, and bird and blossom swell in sod or sheath or shell. All things rising, all things sizing Mary sees, sympathizing with that world of good, nature's motherhood. Their magnifying of each its kind with delight calls to mind how she did in her stored magnify the Lord. Well, but there was more than this, spring's universal bliss had much to say to offering Mary May. When drop of blood and foamed apple bloom lights the orchard apple and thicket and thorpe are merry with silver-surfed cherry. And azuring over grey bell makes wood banks and breaks wash wet like lakes and magic cook call caps, clears, and clinches all. This ecstasy all through mothering earth tells Mary her mirth till Christ's birth to remember, and exultation in God who was her salvation. _ 19 Binsey Poplars. Feld 1879 _ My aspens dear, whose airy cages quelled or quenched in leaves the leaping sun, all felled, are all felled, of a fresh and following folded rank not spared, not one that dandled a sandalled shadow that swam or sank on meadow and river and wind-wandering weed-winding bank. Oh, if we but knew what we do when we delve or hack and rack the growing green! Since country is so tender to touch, her being so slender that, like this sleek and seeing ball but a prick will make no eye at all, even where we mean to mend her we end her, when we hew or delve, aftercomers cannot guess the beauty bin. 10 or 12, only 10 or 12 strokes of havoc unselve the sweet especial scene, a rural scene, sweet especial rural scene. 20 Duns Scotus's Oxford. Towery city and branchy between towers, cuckoo echoing, bell swarmed, lark charmed, rook racked, river rounded, the dappled lily below thee, that country and town did once encounter in, here coped and poised powers. Thou hast a base and brickish skirt there, sours that neighbor nature thy grey beauty is grounded best in, graceless growth, thou hast confounded rural keeping, folk, flocks, and flowers. Yet this air I gather and I release he lived on, these weeds and waters, these walls are what he haunted who of all men most sways my spirits to peace. Of realty the rarest veined unraveller, a not rivaled insight, be rival Italy or Greece, who fired France from Mary without spot. 21 Henry Purcell. The poet wishes well to the divine genius of Purcell and praises him that, whereas other musicians have given utterance to the moods of man's mind, he has, beyond that, uttered in notes the very make and species of man as created both in him and in all men generally. Have fair fallen, O fair, fair have fallen, so dear to me, so arch especial a spirit as heaves in Henry Purcell, an age is now since past, since parted, with the reversal of the outward sentence low lays him, listed to a heresy, here. Not mood in him nor meaning, proud fire or sacred fear, or love or pity or all that sweet notes not his might nursel, it is the forged feature finds me, it is the rehearsal of own, of abrupt self there so thrusts on, so throngs the ear. Let him with his air of angels then lift me, lay me. Only I'll have an eye to the sakes of him, quaint moonmarks, to his pelted plumage under wings, so some great storm foul, whenever he has walked his while. The thunder-purple sea-beached plume purple of thunder, if a wuthering of his palmy snow-pinions scatter a colossal smile off him, but meaning motion fans fresh our wits with wonder. 22 Peace. When will you ever, peace, wild wood of shy wings shut, your round me roaming end, and under be my boughs? When, peace, will you, peace? I'll not play hypocrite to own my heart, I yield you do come sometimes, but that piecemeal peace is pure peace. What pure peace allows alarms of wars, the daunting wars, the death of it? Oh, surely, reaving peace, my lord should leave and lose some good. And so he does leave patience exquisite, that plumes to peace thereafter. And when peace here does house he comes with work to do, he does not come to coo, he comes to brood and sit. 23 The Bugler's First Communion. A bugler boy from Barak, it is over the hill there, boy bugler, born, he tells me, of Irish mother to an English sire, he shares their best gifts surely, fall how things will. This very day came down to us after a boon he on my late being there begged of me, overflowing boon in my bestowing, came, I say, this day to it, to a first communion. Here he knelt then in regimental red. Forth Christ from cupboard fetched, how fain I of feet to his youngster take his treat. Low-latched and leaf-light housel his two huge Godhead. There. And your sweetest sendings, divine, by it, heavens, befall him. As a heart Christ's darling, dauntless, tongue true, vaunt and tauntless, breathing bloom of a chastity in man's sex fine. Frowning and forefending angel warders squander the hellrook ranks sally to molest him. March, kind comrade, abreast him, dress his days to a dexterous and starlight order. How it does my heart good, visiting at that bleak hill, when limber liquid youth, that to all I teach yields tender as a pushed peach, highs headstrong to its well-being of a self-wise self-will. Then though I should tread tufts of consolation dice after, so I in a sort deserve to and do serve God to serve to just such slips of soldiery Christ's royal ration. Nothing else is like it, no, not all so strains us, fresh youth fretted in a bloom fall all portending that sweeter ending, realm both Christ is heir to and there reigns. Oh now well work that sealing sacred ointment. Oh for now charms, arms, what bands off bad and locks love ever in a lad. Let may those see no more of him, and not disappointment. Those sweet hopes quell whose least me quickenings lift. In scarlet, or somewhere of some days seeing that brow and beat of being, an our days God's own Galahad. Though this child's drift seems by a divine doom channeled, nor do I cry disaster there, but may he not rankle and roam in backwheels though bound home, that left to the Lord of the Eucharist, I here lie by. Recorded only, I have put my lips on pleas would brandle adamant in heaven with ride and jar, did prayer go disregarded, forward like, but however, and like favorable heaven heard these. 24 Morning, midday, and evening sacrifice. The dappled die-away cheek and wimpled lip, the gold wisp, the airy grey eye, all in fellowship, this, all this beauty blooming, this, all this freshness fuming, give God while worth consuming. Both thought and thought now bolder and told by nature, tower, head, heart, hand, heel, and shoulder that beat and breathe in power. This pride of prime's enjoyment take as for tool, not toy meant, and hold at Christ's employment. The vault and scope and schooling and mastery in the mind, in silk ash kept from cooling, and ripest under rind, what life hath lifts the latch of, what hell stalks towards the snatch of, your offering, with dispatch, of 25 Andromeda. Now time's Andromeda on this rock rude, with not her either beauties equal or her injuries, looks off by both horns of shore, her flower, her piece of being, doomed dragon's food. Time past she has been attempted and pursued by many blows and banes, but now hears roar a wilder beast from west than all were, more rife in her wrongs, more lawless, and more lewd. Her pursuers linger and leave her to her extremes, pillowy ere he treads a time and hangs his thoughts on her, forsaken that she seems, all while her patience, morselled into pangs, mounts, then to a light disarming, no one dreams, with Gorgon's gear and bare bill, thongs and fangs. 26 The candle indoors. Some candle clear burns somewhere I come by. I muse at how its being puts blissful back with yellowy moisture mild nights blur all black, or to fro tender trambeams truckle at the eye. By that window what task what fingers ply, I plod wondering, wanting, just for lack of answer the eager wanting Jesse or Jack their God to aggrandize, God to glorify. Come you indoors, come home, your fading fire mend first and vital candle in close heart's vault. You there are master, do your own desire, what hinders? Are you beam blind, yet to a fault and a neighbor deft-handed? Are you that liar and cast by conscience out, spend savor salt? 27 The handsome heart. At a gracious answer . But tell me, child, your choice, what shall I buy you? Father, what you buy me I like best. With the sweetest air that said, still plied and pressed, he swung to his first poised purport of reply. What the heart is, which, like carriers let fly, doff darkness, homing nature knows the rest, to its own fine function, wild and self-instressed, falls light as 10 years long taught how to and why. Mannerly hearted, more than handsome face, beauty's bearing or muse of mounting vein, all, in this case, bathed in high hallowing grace. Of heaven what boon to buy you, boy, or gain not granted? Only, on that path you pace run all your race, brace sterner that strain. 28. At the wedding march . God with honor hang your head, groom, and grace you, bride, your bed with lissome scions, sweet scions, out of hallowed bodies bred. Each be others' comfort kind, deep, deeper than divine charity, dear charity, fast you ever, fast bind. Then let the march tread our ears, I to him turn with tears who to wedlock, his wonder wedlock, deals triumph and immortal years. 29 Felix Randall. Felix Randall the farrier, he is dead then? My duty all ended, who have watched his mold of man, big-boned and hardy handsome pining, till time when reason rambled in it and some fatal four disorders, flesh there, all contended. Sickness broke him. Impatient he cursed at first, but mended being anointed and all, though a heavenlier heart began some months earlier, since I had our sweet reprieve and ransom tendered to him. Ah well, God rest him, all road ever he offended. This seeing the sick endears them to us to it endears. My tongue had taught thee comfort, touch had quenched thy tears that touched my heart, child, Felix, per Felix Randall. How far from then forethought of, all thy more boisterous years, when thou at the random grim forge, powerful amidst peers, didst fettle for the great grey dray horse his bright and battering sandal. 30 Brothers. How lovely the elder brother's life all laced in the other's, love-laced. What once I well witnessed, so fortune fell. When Shrovetide 2 years gone, 5 our boys' plays brought on part was picked for John, young John, then fear, then joy ran revel in the elder boy. Their night was come now, all 10 our company thronged the hall. Henry, by the wall, beckoned me beside him, I came where called, and eyed him by meanwhiles, making my play 15 turn most on tender byplay. 4 rung all on love's rack, my lad, and lost in Jack, smiled, blushed, and bit his lip, or drove, with a diver's dip, 20 clutched hands down through clasped knees. Truth's tokens tricks like these, old telltales, with what stress he hung on the imp's success. Now the other was brass-bowled. 25 he had no work to hold his heart up at the strain. Nay, roguish ran the vein. 2 tedious acts were past, Jack's call and cue at last. 30 when Henry, heart forsook, dropped eyes and dared not look. How all wrong! Young dog, he did give tongue. But Harry, in his hands he has flung 35 his tear-tricked cheeks of flame for fond love and for shame. Ah, nature, framed in fault, there is comfort then, there is salt. Nature, bad, base, and blind, 40 dearly thou canst be kind, there dearly then, dearly, I'll cry thou canst be kind. 31 Spring and Fall. To a young child Margaret, are you grieving over Golden Grove unleaving? Leaves, like the things of man, you with your fresh thoughts care for, can you? Ah! As the heart grows older it will come to such sights colder by and by, nor spare a sigh though worlds of wan would leave me a lie, and yet you will weep and know why. Now no matter, child, the name, sorrow's springs are the same. Nor mouth had, no nor mind, expressed what heart heard of, ghost guessed, it is the blight man was born for, it is Margaret you mourn for. 32 Spelt from Sybil's Leaves. Earnest, earthless, equal, attunable, vaulty, voluminous. Stupendous evening strains to be time's vast, womb of all, home of all, hearse of all night. Her fond yellow hornlight wound to the west, her wild hollow horlight hung to the height waste. Her earliest stars, earl stars, stars principal, overbend us, fire featuring heaven. For earth, her being has unbound, her dapple is at an end, as tray or a swarm, all through in throngs, self and self steeped and pashed, quite disremembering, dismembering, all now. Hark, you round me right with, our evening is over us, our night, whelms, and will end us. Only the beak-leaved boughs dragonish, damnest the tool smooth bleak light, black, ever so black on it. Our tale, our oracle. Let life, waned, I'll let life wind off her once stained vain variety, upon, all on 2 spools, part, pen, pack now her all in 2 flocks, 2 folds, black, white, right, wrong, reckon but wreck but mind but these 2, where of a world where but these 2 tell, each off the other, of a rack where, self-wrung, self-strung, sheathed and shelterless, thoughts against thoughts and groans grind. 33 Inversnade. This darksome burn, horseback brown, his roll-rock highroad roaring down, in coop and in comb the fleece of his foam flutes and low to the lake falls home. A wind-puff bonnet of fawn-froth turns and twindles over the broth of a pool so pitch-black, fell frowning, it rounds and rounds despair to drowning. Deadied with dew, dappled with dew are the groins of the braes that the brook treads through, wiry heath-packs, flitches of fern, and the bee-bonny ash that sits over the burn. What would the world be, once bereft of wet and of wildness? Let them be left, oh let them be left, wildness and wet, long live the weeds and the wilderness yet. 34. As kingfishers catch fire, dragonflies draw a flame, as tumbled over rim and roundy well stones ring, like each tuck string tells, each hung bell's bow swung finds tongue to fling out broad its name, each mortal thing does one thing and the same, deals out that being indoors each one dwells, selves, goes itself, myself it speaks and spells, crying what I do is me, for that I came. I say more, the just man justices, keeps grace, that keeps all his goings graces, acts in God's eye what in God's eye he is, Christ, for Christ plays in 10,000 places, lovely in limbs, and lovely in eyes not his to the Father through the features of men's faces. 35 Ribblesdale. Earth, sweet landscape, with leaves throng and lush low grass, heaven that dost appeal to, with no tongue to plead, no heart to feel, that canst but only be, but dost that long. Thou canst but be, but that thou well dost, strong thy plea with him who dealt, nay does now deal, thy lovely dale down thus, and thus bids reel thy river, and o'er gives all to wrack or wrong. And what is earth's eye, tongue, or heart else, where else, but in dear and dogged man, ah, the heir to his own self and so bound, so tied to his turn, to thriftless reeve both our rich round world bare, and none reck of world after. This bids where earth browse of such care, care and dear concern. Underscore 36 The leaden echo, and the golden echo. Maiden song from St. Winfred's well, underscore. The leaden echo. How to keep, is there any, is there none such, nowhere known some, bow or brooch or braid or brace, lace, latch or catch or key to keep back beauty, keep it, beauty, 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 from vanishing away? Oh, is there no frowning of these wrinkles, ranked wrinkles deep down? No waving off of these most mournful messengers, still messengers, sad and stealing messengers of grey? No, there's none, oh no, there's none, nor can you long be, what you now are, called fair, do what you may do what you may, and wisdom is early to despair, be beginning, since, no, nothing can be done to keep at bay age and age's evils, hoar hair, ruck and wrinkle, drooping, dying, death's worst, winding sheets, tombs and worms and tumbling to decay, so be beginning to despair. Oh, there's none, no, there's none, be beginning to despair, despair. The golden echo. Spare. There is one, yes, I have one, hush there, only not within seeing of the sun, not within the singeing of the strong sun, tall sun's tinging, or treacherous the tainting of the earth's air. Somewhere elsewhere there is, ah well, where? One. Yes, I can tell such a key, I do know such a place, where whatever's prized and passes of us, everything that's fresh and fast flying of us, seems to us sweet of us and swiftly away with, done away with, undone, done with, soon done with, and yet dearly and dangerously sweet of us, the wimpled water dimpled, not by morning matched face, the flower of beauty, fleece of beauty, too apt to fleet, never fleets more, fastened with the tenderest truth to its own best being and its loveliness of youth. It is an everlastingness of, oh, it is an all youth. Come then, your ways and airs and looks, locks, maiden gear, gallantry and gaiety and grace, winning ways, airs innocent, maiden manners, sweet looks, loose locks, long locks, love locks, gay gear, going gallant, girl grace, resign them, sign them, seal them, send them, motion them with breath, and with sighs soaring sighs deliver them, beauty and the ghost, deliver it, early now, long before death give beauty back, beauty, back to God, beauty's self and beauty's giver. See, not a hair is, not an eyelash, not the least lash lost, every hair is, hair of the head, numbered. Nay, what we had light-handed left in surly the mere mold will have waked, and have waxed, and have walked with the wind what while we slept, this side, that side hurling a heavy-headed hundredfold what while we slumbered. Oh then, weary then why should we tread? Oh, why are we so haggard at the heart, so care-coiled, care-killed, so faggied, so fashed, so cogged, so cumbered, when the thing we freely forfeit is kept with fonder a care kept than we could have kept it, kept far with fonder a care, and we should have lost it, fonder a care kept. Where kept? Do but tell us where kept, where dot, yonder dot, what high is that? We follow, now we follow dot, yonder, yes yonder. 37 The Blessed Virgin compared to the air we breathe. Wild air, world-mothering air, nestling me everywhere, that each eyelash or hair girdles, goes home betwixt the fleeciest, friliest flicked snowflake, that's fairly mixed with riddles, and is rife in every least thing's life, this needful, never spent, and nursing element, tend my more than meat and drink, my meal at every wink, this air, which, by life's law, my lung must draw and draw now but to breathe its praise, minds me in many ways of her who not only gave God's infinity dwindled to infancy welcome in womb and breast, 20 birth, milk, and all the rest, but mothers each new grace that does now reach our race, Mary Immaculate, merely a woman, yet whose presence, power as great as no goddess's was dreamed, who this one work has to do, let all God's glory through, 30 God's glory which would go through her and from her flow off, and no way but so. I say that we are wound with mercy round and round as if with air, this same is Mary, more by name. She, wild web, wondrous robe, mantles the guilty globe, since God has let dispense 40 her prayers his providence, nay, more than almoner, the sweet alm's self is her, and men are meant to share her life as life does air. If I have understood, she holds high motherhood towards all our ghostly good, and plays in grace her part about man's beating heart. 50 laying, like air's fine flood, the death dance in his blood, yet no part but what will be Christ our Saviour still. Of her flesh he took flesh, he does take fresh and fresh, though much the mystery how, not flesh but spirit now, and makes, oh marvellous, new Nazareths in us, 60 where she shall yet conceive him, morning, noon, and eve, new Bethlehems, and he born there, evening, noon, and morn Bethlehem or Nazareth, men here may draw like breath more Christ and baffle death, who, born so, comes to be new self and nobler me in each one, and each one 70 more makes, when all is done, both God's and Mary's Son. Again, look overhead how air is azured, oh how! Nay, do but stand where you can lift your hand skywards, rich, rich it laps round the forefinger gaps. Yet such a sapphire shot, charged, steep sky will not 80 stain light. Yea, mark you this, it does no prejudice. The glass blue days are those when every color glows, each shape and shadow shows. Blue be it, this blue heaven the 7 or 7 times 7 hued sunbeam will transmit perfect, not alter it. Or if there does some soft, 90 on things aloof, aloft, bloom breathe, that one breath more earth is the fairer for. Whereas did air not make this bath of blue and slake his fire, the sun would shake, a blear and blinding ball with blackness bound, and all the thick stars round him roll flashing like flecks of coal, 100 quarts fret, or sparks of salt, in grimy vasty vault. So God was God of old, a mother came to mold those limbs like ours which are what must make our day star much dearer to mankind, whose glory bare would blind or less would win man's mind. Through her we may see him 110 made sweeter, not made dim, and her hand leaves his light sifted to suit our sight. Be thou then, thou dear mother, my atmosphere, my happier world, wherein to wend and meet no sin, above me, round me lie fronting my froward eye with sweet and scarless sky, 120 stir in my ears, speak there of God's love, O live air, of patience, penance, prayer, world-mothering air, air wild, wound with thee, in the aisle, fold home, fast fold thy child. 38 To what serves mortal beauty? To what serves mortal beauty? Dangerous. Does set dank ing blood the oceal that so, feature, flung prouder form than Purcell tune let's tread to? See, it does this, keeps warm men's wits to the things that are, what good means, where a glance master more may than gaze out of countenance. Those lovely lads once, wet fresh, windfalls of war's storm, how then should Gregory, a father, have gleaned else from swarm ed Rome? But God to a nation, dealt that day's dear chance. To man, that needs would worship, block or barren stone, our law says, love what are, love's worthiest, were all known, world's loveliest, men's selves. Self, flashes off frame and face. What do then? How meet beauty? Merely meet it, own, home at heart, heaven's sweet gift, then leave, let that alone. Yeah, wish that though, wish all, God's better beauty grace. 39 The soldier. Yes. Why do we all, seeing of a soldier, bless him? Bless our redcoats, our tars? Both these being, the greater part, but frail clay, nay but foul clay. Here it is, the heart, since, proud, it calls the calling manly, gives a guess that, hopes that, makes believe, the men must be no less. It fancies, feigns, deems, dears the artist after his art, and fain will find as sterling all is smart, and scarlet where the spirit of war there express. Mark Christ our King. He knows war, served this soldiering through, he of all can handle a rope best. There he bides in bliss now, and seeing somewhere some man do all that man can do, for love he leans forth, needs his neck must fall on, kiss, and cry O Christ done deed. So God made flesh does too, where I come o'er again cries Christ it should be this. 40 Carry in comfort. I'll not carry in comfort, despair, not feast on thee, not untwist, slack they may be, these last strands of man in me, or, most weary, cry I can no more. I can something, hope, wish day come, not choose not to be. But oh thou terrible, Why wouldst thou root on me thy ring-whirled right foot rock? Lay a lion limb against me? Skin with darksome devouring eyes my bruised bones? And fan, in turns of tempest, me heap there, me frantic to avoid thee and flee? Why? That my chaff might fly, my grain lie sheer and clear. Nay, in all that toil, that coil, since, seems, I kissed the rod, hand rather, my heart low lapped strength, stole joy, would laugh, cheer. Cheer whom though? The hero whose heaven-handling flung me, foot trod me? Or me that fought him? Oh, which one? Is it each one? That night, that year of now done darkness I wretch lay wrestling with, my God, my God. 41. No worst, there is none. Pitched past pitch of grief, more pangs will, schooled at forepangs, wilder ring. Comforter, where is your comforting? Mary, mother of us, where is your relief? My cries heave, herds long, huddle in amain, a chief woe, world sorrow, on an age-old anvil wince and sing, then lull, then leave off. Fury had shrieked no ling erring. Let me be fell, force I must be brief. Oh, the mind has mountains, cliffs of fall frightful, sheer, no man fathomed. Hold them cheap may who ne'er hung there. Nor does long our small durance deal with that steep or deep. Here, creep, wretch, under a comfort serves in a whirlwind, all life death does end and each day dies with sleep. 42 Tom's Garland. Upon the unemployed _ Tom, garlanded with squat and surly steel Tom. Then Tom's fallow but fellow piles picked by him and rips out rock fire home forth. Sturdy Dick, Tom heart at ease, Tom navvy, he is all for his meals sure esped now. Low be it, lustily he his low lot, feel that ne'er need hunger, Tom. Tom seldom sick, seldomer heart sore, that treads through, prick-proof, thick thousands of thorns, thoughts, swings though. Common will little I reck ho. Lack level in, if all had bread, what? Country is honor enough in all us, lordly head, with heaven's lights high hung round, or, mother ground that mammocks, mighty foot. But no way sped, nor mind nor main strength, gold go garlanded with, perilous, oh no, nor yet plod safe shod sound, undenizened, beyond bound of earth's glory, earth's ease, all, no one, nowhere, in wide the world's wheel, rare gold, bold steel, bear in both, care, but share care, this, by despair, bred hangdog dull, by rage, man-wolf, worse, and their packs infest the age. 43 Hairy Plowman. Hard as hurdle arms, with the broth of goldish flue breathed round, the rack of ribs, the scooped flank, lank rope over thigh, knee nave, and barreled shank, head and foot, shoulder and shank, by a grey eyes he'd steered well, one crew, fall to, stand at stress. Each limb's barrowy brawn, his thew that one where curd, one where sucked or sank, soared or sank, though as a beech bull firm, finds his, as at a roll call, rank and features, in flesh, what deed he each must do, his sinew service where due. He leans to it, hairy bends, look, back, elbow, and liquid waste in him, all quail to the wallowing o' the plough, cheek crimsons, curls wag o'er cross bridle, in a wind lifted, wind laced, see his wind lily locks laced, churls grace, too, child of a man's strength, how it hangs or hurls them, broad and bluff hide his frowning feet lashed. Raced with, along them, cradgerin under and cold furls, with the fountain's shining shot furls. 44. To seem the stranger lies my lot, my life among strangers. Father and mother dear, brothers and sisters are in Christ not near, and he my peace my parting, sword and strife. England, whose honor all my heart woos, wife to my creating thought, would neither hear me, were I plead nor do I where why of idle a being but by where wars are rife. I am in Ireland now I am at a third remove. Not but in all removes I can kind love both give and get. Only what word wisest my heart breeds dark heaven's baffling band bars or hell's spell thwarts. This to hoard unheard, heard unheeded, leaves me a lonely began. 45. I wake and feel the fell of dark, not day. What hours, oh what black hours we have spent this night! What sights you, heart, saw, ways you went! And more must, and yet longer lights delay. with witness I speak this. But where I say hours I mean years, mean life. And my lament is cries countless, cries like dead letters sent to dearest him that lives, alas! Away. I am gall, I am heartburn. God's most deep decree bitter would have me taste, my taste was me, bones built in me, flesh filled, blood brimmed the curse. Self-east of spirit dulled those sours. I see the lost are like this, and their scourge to be as I am mine, their sweating selves, but worse. 46. Patience, hard thing. The hard thing but to pray, but bid for, patience is. Patience who asks wants war, wants wounds, weary his times, his tasks, to do without, take tosses, and obey. Rare patience roots in these, and these away, nowhere. Natural heart's ivy, patience masks our ruins of wrecked past purpose. There she basks purple eyes and seas of liquid leaves all day. We hear our hearts grate on themselves, it kills to bruise them dearer. Yet the rebellious wills of us we do bid God bend to him even so. And where is he who more and more distills delicious kindness? He is patient. Patience fills his crisp combs, and that comes those ways we know. 47. My own heart let me have more pity on, let me live to my sad self hereafter kind, charitable, not live this tormented mind with this tormented mind tormenting yet. I cast for comfort I can no more get by groping round my comfortless, than blind eyes in their dark can day or thirst can find thirsts all in all a world of wet. Soul self, come, poor Jack's self, I do advise you, jaded, let be, call off thoughts awhile elsewhere, leave comfort root room, let joy sighs at God knows when to God knows what, whose smile s not run, see you, unforeseen times rather, as skies between high mountains, lights a lovely mile. 48. That nature is a Heraclitean fire and of the comfort of the resurrection. Cloud puffball, torn tufts, tossed pillows, flaunt forth, then chevy on an air-built thoroughfare, heaven roisterous, in gay gangs, they throng, they glitter in marches. Down rough cast, down dazzling whitewash, wherever an elm arches, shive lights and shadow tackle and long, lashes lace, lance, and pear. Delightfully the bright wind boisterous, ropes, wrestles, beats earth bare of yester tempest creases, in pool and rut peel parches squandering ooze to squeezed, dough, crust, dust, stanches, starches squadron masks and man-marks, trade mire toil their foot fretted in it. Million-fueled nature's bonfire burns on. But quench her bonniest, dearest, to her clearest selved spark man, how fast his fire dint, his mark on mind, is gone. Both are in an unfathomable, all is in an enormous dark drowned. O pity and indig, nation! Man's shape, that shone sheer off, disseveral, a star, death blots black out, nor mark is any of him at all so stark but vastness blurs and time, beats level. Enough! The resurrect ion, a heart's clarion. Away grief's gasping, joyless days, dejection. Across my foundering deck shone a beacon, an eternal beam. Flesh fade, and mortal trash fall to the residuary worm, world's wildfire, leave but ash, in a flash, at a trumpet crash, I am all at once what Christ is, since he was what I am, and this jack, joke, poor potsherd, patch, matchwood, immortal diamond, is immortal diamond. 49. In honor of Saint Alphonsus Rodriguez, lay brother of the Society of Jesus. Honor is flashed off exploit, so we say, and those strokes once that gashed flesh or galled shield should tongue that time now, trumpet now that field, and on the fighter forge his glorious day. On Christ they do and on the martyr may, but be the war within, the brand we wield unseen, the heroic breast not outward steeled, earth hears no hurdle then from fiercest fray. Yet God, that hews mountain and continent, earth, all out, who, with trickling increment, veins, violets, and tall trees makes more and more, could crowd career with conquest while there went those years and years by of world without event that in Majorca Alfonso watched the door. 50. Justus cadem tu es domini, esse disputum tecum, verum tamen justa loquar ad te, quer via impiorum prosperator? And c. Thou art indeed just, Lord, if I contend with thee, but, sir, so what I plead is just. Why do sinners' ways prosper? And why must disappointment all I endeavor end? Wert thou my enemy, O thou my friend, how wouldst thou worse, I wonder, than thou dost defeat, thwart me? Oh, the sots and thralls of lust do in spare hours more thrive than I that spend, sir, life upon thy cause. See, banks and brakes now, leaved how thick laced they are again with fretty chervil, look, and fresh wind shakes them. Birds build, but not I build, no, but strain, time's eunuch, and not breed one work that wakes. Mine, O thou Lord of life, send my roots rain. 51 to R. B. The fine delight that father's thought, the strong spur, live and lancing like the blowpipe flame, breathes once and, quenched faster than it came, leaves yet the mind a mother of immortal song. 9 months she then, nay years, 9 years she long within her wears, bears, cares and molds the same. The widow of an insight lost she lives, with aim now known and hand at work now never wrong. Sweet fire the sire of muse, my soul needs this. I want the one rapture of an inspiration. Well then if in my lagging lines you miss the roll, the rise, the carol, the creation, my winter world, that scarcely breathes that bliss now, yields you, with some sighs, our explanation. Unfinished poems and fragments. 52 Summa. The best ideal is the true, and other truth is none. All glory be ascribed to the Holy Three in One. 53. What being in rank old nature should earlier have that breathed been that here personal tells off these heart-song powerful peals? A bush-browed, beetle-browed billow is it? With a southwesterly wind blustering, with the tide rolls reels of crumbling, forefoundering, thundering all surfy seas in, seen underneath, their glassy barrel, of a fairy green. Or a jaunting, vaunting, vaulting, assaulting trumpet telling. Underscore 54 on the portrait of two beautiful young people. A brother and sister underscore. Oh, I admire and sorrow the hearts I grieves discovering you, dark tramplers, tyrant years. A Jew's rides rich through bluebells, in vine leaves, and beauty's dearest veriest vein is tears. Happy the father, mother of these. Too fast, not that, but thus far, all with frailty, blessed in one fair fall, but for times after cast, creatures all heft, hope, hazard, interest. And are they thus? The fine, the fingering beams their young delightful hour do feature down that fleeted else like day dissolved dreams or ringlet race on burling barrow brown. She leans on him with such contentment fond as well the sister sits, would well the wife. His looks, the soul's own letters, see beyond, gaze on, and fall directly forth on life. But ah, bright forelock, cluster that you are of favored make in mind and health and youth, where lies your landmark, seamark, or soul's star? There's none but truth can stead you. Christ is truth. There's none but good can be good, both for you and what sways with you, maybe this sweet maid. None good but God, a warning wave to one once that was found wanting when good weighed. Man lives that list, that leaning in the will no wisdom can forecast by gauge or guess, the selfless self of self, most strange, most still, fast furled and all foredrawn to no or yes. Your feast of, that most in your earnest I may but call on your banes to more carouse. Worst were the best. What worm was here, we cry, to have havoc pocked so, see, the hung heavenward bows. Enough, corruption was the world's first woe. What need I strain my heart beyond my ken? Oh, but I bear my burning witness though against the wild and wanton work of men. 55. The sea took pity, it interposed with doom. I have tall daughters dear that heed my hand, let winter wed one, sow them in her womb, and she shall child them on the new world strand. 56 Ash boughs. Not of all my eyes see, wandering on the world, is anything a milk to the mind so sighs deep poetry to it, as a tree whose boughs break in the sky. Say it is ash boughs, whether on a December day unfurled fast or they in clammyish lashed tender combs creep apart wide and new nestly at heaven most high. They touch heaven, tabour on it, how their talons sweep the smouldering enormous winter welkin. May mel's blue and snow white through them, a fringe and fray of greenery, it is old earth's groping towards the steep heaven whom she childs us by. Variant from line 7, b. They touch, they tabour on it, hover on it, here, there hurled, with talons sweep the smouldering enormous winter welkin. Aye, but more cheer is when May mel's blue with snow white through their fringe and fray of greenery and old earth gropes for grasps at steep heaven with it whom she childs things by. 57. Hope holds to Christ the mind's own mirror out to take his lovely likeness more and more. It will not well, so she would bring about an ever brighter burnish than before, and turns to wash it from her welling eyes, and breathes the blots off all with sighs on sighs. Her glass is blessed, but she as good as blind holds till hand aches and wonders what is there. Her glass drinks light, she darkles down behind, all of her glorious gainings unaware. I told you that she turned her mirror dim between whiles, but she sees herself not him. 53 St. Winefred's Well. Act I, Sci. Enter Tereth from riding, Winefred following. T. What is it, Gwen, my girl? Why do you hover and haunt me? W. You came by Caerwes, sir? T. I came by Caerwes. W. There's some messenger there might have met you from my uncle. T. Your uncle met the messenger, met me, and this the message: Lord Buno comes tonight. W. Tonight, sir. T. Soon now, therefore have all things ready in his room. W. There needs but little doing. T. Let what there needs be done. Stay. With him one companion, his deacon, Dervin warm, twice over must the welcome be, but both will share one cell. This was good news, Gwenvery. W. Ah, yes. T. Why, get thee gone then, tell thy mother I want her. Exit Winefred. No man has such a daughter. The fathers of the world call no such maiden mine. The deeper grows her dearness, and more times laces round and round my heart, the more some monstrous hand gropes with clammy fingers there, tampering with those sweet binds, draws them out, strains them. Meantime some tongue cries, What, Tereth? What, thou poor fond father? How when this bloom, this honeysuckle, that rides the air so rich about thee, is all sheared away, thus, then I sweat for fear. Or else a funeral, and yet 'tis not a funeral, some pageant which takes tears, and I must foot with feeling that alive or dead my girl is carried in it, endlessly goes marching through my mind. What sense is this? It has none. This is too much the father, nay the mother. Fanciful. I here forbid my thoughts to fool themselves with fears. Enter Gwenlow. Act 2. Scene: a wood ending in a steep bank over a dry dean, Winefred having been murdered within. Re-enter Caradoc with a bloody sword. See, my heart, where have we been? What have we seen, my mind? What stroke has Caradoc's right arm dealt? What done? Head of a rebel struck off it has, written upon lovely limbs, in bloody letters, lessons of earnest, of revenge, monuments of my earnest, records of my revenge, on one that went against me, whereas I had warned her. Well she knew. I warned her of this work. What work? What harm hast done? There is no harm done, none yet. Perhaps we struck no blow, Gwenvery lives perhaps, to make believe my mood was mock. I might think so, but here is a workman from his day's task sweats. Wiped I am sure this was, it seems not well, for still the scarlet swings and dances on the blade. So be it. Thou steel, thou butcher, I can scour thee, fresh burnish thee, sheathe thee in thy dark lair, these drops never in their blue banks again. The woeful Craddock, the woeful word. Then what have we seen? Her head, sheared from her shoulders, fall, and lapped in shining hair, rolled to the bank's edge, then down the beetling banks, like water in waterfalls, it stooped and flashed and fell and ran like water away. Her eyes, oh, and her eyes! In all her beauty, and sunlight to it is a pit, den, darkness, foam falling is not fresh to it, rainbow by it not beaming, in all her body, I say, no place was like her eyes, no piece matched those eyes, kept most part much cast down, but, being lifted, immortal, of immortal brightness. Several times I saw them, thrice or 4 times turning, round and round they came and flashed towards heaven, oh there they did appeal. Therefore airy vengeances are afoot, heaven vault fast purpling portends, and what first lightning any instant falls means me. And I do not repent, I do not, and I will not repent. The blame bear who aroused me. What I have done violent I have like a lion done, lion-like done, honoring an uncontrolled royal wrathful nature, mantling passion in a grandeur, crimson grandeur. Now be my pride then perfect, all one piece. Henceforth in a wide world of defiance Caradoc lives alone, loyal to his own soul, laying his own law down, no law nor lord now curb him forever. O daring! O deep insight! What is virtue? Valor, only the heart valiant. And right? Only resolution, will, his will unwavering who, like me, knowing his nature to the heart home, nature's business, dispatches with no flinching. But will flesh, oh can flesh second this fiery strain? Not always, oh no no! We cannot live this life out, sometimes we must weary, and in this darksome world what comfort can I find? Down this darksome world comfort where can I find when T.S. light I quenched, its rose, times one rich rose, my hand by her bloom, fast by her fresh, her fleece bloom, hideous dashed down, leaving earth a winter withering with no now, no Gwenvery. I must miss her most that might have spared her were it but for passion sake. Yes, to hunger and not have, yet hope on for, to storm and strive and be at every assault fresh foiled, worse flung, deeper disappointed, the turmoil and the torment, it has, I swear, a sweetness, keeps a kind of joy in it, a zest, an edge, an ecstasy, next after sweet success. I am not left even this, I all my being have hacked in half with her neck one part, reason, self-esposal, choice of better or worse way, is corpse now, cannot change. My other self, this soul, life's quick, this kind, this keen self-feeling, with dreadful distillation of thoughts sour as blood, must all day long taste murder. What do now then? Do? Nay, deed-bound I am, one deed treads all down here cramps all doing. What do? Not yield, not hope, not pray, despair. Aye, that brazen despair out, brave all, and take what comes, as here this rabble is come, whose bloods I reck no more of, no more rank with hers than sewers with sacred oils. Mankind that mobs comes. Come! Enter a crowd, among them Tereth, Gwenlow, Buno. After Winfred's raising from the dead and the breaking out of the fountain. Buno. O now while skies are blue, now while seas are salt, while rushy rains shall fall or brooks shall fleet from fountains, while sick men shall cast sighs, of sweet health all despairing, while blind men's eyes shall thirst after daylight, draughts of daylight, or deaf ears shall desire that lip music that's lost upon them, while cripples are, while lepers, dancers in dismal limb dance, fallers in dreadful frothbits, waterfurs wild, stone, palsy, cancer, cough, lung wasting, womb not bearing, rupture, running sores, what more? In brief, in burden, as long as men are mortal and God merciful, so long to this sweet spot, this leafy lean over, this dry dean, now no longer dry nor dumb, but moist and musical with the uproll and the down carol of day and night delivering water, which keeps thy name, for not in rock written, but in pale water, frail water, wild rash and reeling water that will not wear a print, that will not stain a pen. Thy venerable record, Virgin, is recorded. Here to this holy well shall pilgrimages be, and not from purple Wales only nor from elmy England, but from beyond seas, Erin, France and Flanders, everywhere, pilgrims, still pilgrims, more pilgrims, still more poor pilgrims. What sights shall be when some that swung, wretches, on crutches their crutches shall cast from them, on heels of air departing, or they go rich as rose leaves hence that loathsome came hither. Not now to name even those dearer, more divine boons whose haven the heart is. As sure as what is most sure, sure as that spring primroses shall nude apple next year, sure as tomorrow morning, amongst come back again things, things with a revival, things with a recovery, thy name. 59. What shall I do for the land that bred me, her homes and fields that folded and fed me, be under her banner and live for her honor, under her banner I'll live for her honor. Chorus. Under her banner live for her honor. Not the pleasure, the pay, the plunder, but country and flag, the flag I am under, there is the shilling that finds me willing to follow a banner and fight for honor. We follow her banner, we fight for her honor. Call me England's fame's fond lover, her fame to keep, her fame to recover. Spend me or end me what God shall send me, but under her banner I live for her honor. Under her banner we march for her honor. Where is the field I must play the man on? Oh, welcome their steel or cannon. Immortal beauty is death with duty, if under her banner I fall for her honor. Under her banner we fall for her honor. 60. The times are nightfall, look, their light grows less. The times are winter, watch, a world undone, they waste, they wither worse, they as they run or bring more or more blazon man's distress. And I not help. Nor word now of success, all is from wreck here, there, to rescue one, work which to see scarce so much as begun makes welcome death, does dear forgetfulness. Or what is else? There is your world within. There rid the dragons, root out there the sin. Your will is law in that small commonweal. 61 Cheery beggar. Beyond Magdalen and by the bridge, on a place called there the plain, in summer, in a burst of summertime following falls and falls of rain, when the air was sweet and sour of the flown fine flower of those gold nails and their galinks that hang along the lime. The motion of that man's heart is fine whom want could not make pine, pine that struggling should not sear him, a gift should cheer him like that poor pocket of pence, poor pence of mine. 62. Dennis, whose motionable, alert, most vaulting wit caps occasion with an intellectual fit. Yet Arthur is a bowman. His three-heeled timbrel hit the bald and bold blinking gold when all's done right rooting in the bare but's wincing navel and the sight of the sun. 63. The furl of fresh-leaved dog rose down his cheeks the fourth and flaunting sun had swarthed about with lion brown before the spring was done. His locks like all a revel rope's end, with hempen strands and spray, fallow, foam fallow, hanks, fallen off their ranks, swung down at a disarray. Or like a juicy and jostling shock of bluebells sheaved in May or windlong fleeces on the flock a day off shearing day. Then over his turned temples, here, was a rose, or, failing that, rough robin or five-lipped campion clear for a beauty bow to his hat, and the sunlight sidled, like dewdrops, like dandled diamonds through the sieve of the straw of the plate. 64. The woodlark _ Tivo chideo chivio chi, oh where, what can that be? Wedio, there again. So tiny a trickle of song straying, and all round not to be found for briar, bough, furrow, or green ground before or behind or far or at hand either left either right anywhere in the sunlight. Well, after all. Ah, but hark, I am the little woodlark. Today the sky is two and two with white strokes and strains of the blue, round a ring, around a ring, and while I sail, must listen, I sing. The skylark is my cousin and he is known to men more than me. When the cry within says go on, then I go on till the longing is less and the good gone. But down drop, if it says stop, to the all leaf of the treetop and after that off the bough. I am so very, oh so very glad that I do think there is not to be had. The blue wheatacre is underneath and the braided ear breaks out of the sheath, the ear in milk, lush the sash, and crushed silk poppies aflash, the blood gush blade gash flame rash rooted bud shelling or broadshed tatter tassel tangled and dingle-a-dangled dandy hung dainty head. And down, the fro dry sun's purge and oxeye and lace-leaved lovely foam-tuft fumitory, through the velvety wind viewing to the nest's nook I balance and buoy with the sweet joy of a sweet joy, sweet, of a sweet, of a sweet joy of a sweet joy. 65 Moonrise. I awoke in the midsummer not to call night, in the white and the walk of the morning, the moon, dwindled and thinned to the fringe of a fingernail held to the candle, or paring of paradisiacal fruit, lovely and waning but lustreless, stepped from the stool, drew back from the barrow, of dark beneath of the mountain, a cusp still clasped him, a fluke yet fanged him, and tangled him, not quit utterly. This was the prized, the desirable sight, unsought, presented so easily, parted me leaf and leaf, divided me, eyelid and eyelid of slumber. 66. Repeat that, repeat, cuckoo, bird, and open ear wells, heart springs, delightfully sweet, with a ballad, a rebound off trundle timber and scoops of the hillside ground, hollow ground, the whole landscape flushes on a sudden at a sound. 67 On a piece of music. How all's to one thing wrought. See facsimile, after page 92. Transcriber's note: the facsimile of the handwritten poem is omitted from this text version. It is freely available online from the Internet Archive. 68. The child is father to the man. How can he be? The words are wild. Suck any sense from that who can. The child is father to the man. No, what the poet did right ran. The man is father to the child. The child is father to the man. How can he be? The words are wild. 69. The shepherd's brow fronting forked lightning owns the horror and the havoc and the glory of it. Angels fall, they are towers from heaven, a story of just, majestical, and giant groans. But man, we, scaffold of score brittle bones, who breathe, from ground-long babyhood to hoary age gasp, whose breath is our memento mori, what base is our vial for tragic tones? He, hand to mouth he lives, and voids with shame, and blazoned in however bold the name, man Jack the man is, just, his mate a hussy. And I that die these deaths, that feed this flame, that, in smooth spoons spy life's mask mirrored, tame my tempests there, my fire and fever fussy. 70 to his watch. Mortal my mate, bearing my rock a heart warm beat with cold beat company, shall I earlier or you fail at our force, and lie the ruins of, rifled, once a world of art? The telling time our task is, time's some part, not all, but we were framed to fail and die. One spell and well that one. There, thereby is comfort's carol of all or woes worst smart. Field flown the departed day no morning brings saying this was yours with her, but new one, worse. And then that last and shortest. 71. Strike, churl, hurl, cheerless wind, then, heltering hail May's beauty massacre and wisped wild clouds grow out on the giant air. Tell summer no, bid joy back, have at the harvest, keep hope pale. 72 Epithalamion. Hark, hearer, hear what I do. Lend a thought now, make believe we are leaf-whelmed somewhere with the hood of some branchy bunchy bushy bowered wood, southern Dean or Lancashire clough or Devon cleve, that leans along the loins of hills, where a candy-colored, where a glug brown marbled river, boisterously beautiful, between roots and rocks is danced and dandled, all in froth and water blow balls, down. We are there, when we hear a shout that the hanging honeysuck, the dog-eared hazels in the cover makes dither, makes hover and the riot of a rout of, it must be, boys from the town bathing, it is summer's sovereign good. By there comes a listless stranger, beckoned by the noise he drops towards the river, unseen sees the bevy of them, how the boys with dare and with downed elfinry and bell bright bodies huddling out, are earth-world, air-world, water-world thorough hurled, all by turn and turn about. This garland of their gambols flashes in his breast into such a sudden zest of summertime joys that he hies to a pool neighboring, sees it is the best there, sweetest, freshest, shadowiest, fairyland, silk beech, scrolled ash, packed sycamore, wild white helm, hornbeam Freddy overstood by. Rafts and rafts of flake leaves light, dealt so, painted on the air, hang as still as hawk or hawk-moth, as the stars or as the angels there, like the thing that never knew the earth, never off roots rose. Here he feasts, lovely all is. No more, off with, down he dings his bleached both and wool-woven wear, careless these in colored wisp all lie tumble to, then with loop locks forward falling, forehead frowning, lips crisp over finger-teasing task, his twiny boots fast he opens, last he offering still walk the world he can with bare his feet and come where lies a coffer, burly all of blocks built of chance-quarried, self-quained rocks and the water warbles over into, filleted with glassy grassy quicksilvery shives and shoots. And with heaven-fallen freshness down from moorlands still brims, dark or daylight on and on. Here he will the fleet flinty kind cold element let break across his limbs long. Where we leave him, frolic lavish while he looks about him, laughs, swims. Enough now, since the sacred matter that I mean I should be wronging longer leaving it to float upon this only gambling and echoing of earth note, what is, the delightful Dean? Wedlock. What the water? Spousal love, father, mother, brothers, sisters, friends into fairy trees, wild flowers, wood ferns ranked round the bower. Editor's notes. Preface to notes. An editor of posthumous work is bounden to give some account of the authority for his text, and it is the purpose of the follow ing notes to satisfy inquiry concerning matters whereof the present editor has the advantage of first-hand or particular knowledge. Sources. The sources are four, and will be distinguished as A, B, D, and H, as here described. Is my own collection, a MS book made up of autographs, by which word I denote poems in the author's handwriting, pasted into it as they were received from him, and also of contemporary copies of other poems. These autographs and copies date from 67 to 89, the year of his death. Editions made by copying after that date are not reckoned or used. The first two items of the facsimiles at page 70 are cuttings from A. B is a MS book, into which, in 83, I copied from a certain poems of which the author had kept no copy. He was remiss in making fair copies of his work, and his autograph of the Deutschland having been, seemingly, lost, I copied that poem and others from at his request. After that date he entered more poems in this book as he completed them, and he also made both corrections of copy and emendations of the poems which had been copied into it by me. Thus, if a poem occur in both A and B, then B is the later and, except for overlooked errors of copyist, the better authority. The last entry written by G. M. H. into this book is of the date 1887. D is a collection of the author's letters to Canon Dixon, the only other friend who ever read his poems, with but few exceptions whether of persons or of poems. These letters are in my keep ing. They contain autographs of a few poems with late corrections. H is the bundle of posthumous papers that came into my hands at the author's death. These were at the time examined, sorted, and indexed, and the more important pieces of which copies were taken were inserted into a scrapbook. That collection is the source of a series of his most mature sonnets, and of almost all the unfinished poems and fragments. Among these papers were also some early drafts. The facsimile after page 92 is from H. Method. The latest autographs and autographic corrections have been preferred. In the very few instances in which this principle was overruled, as in numbers 1 and 27, the justification will be found in the note to the poem. The finished poems from 1 to 51 are ranged chronologically by the years, but in the section 5274 a fanciful grouping of the fragments was preferred to the inevitable misrepresentations of conjectural dating. G. M. H. dated his poems from their inception, and however much he revised a poem he would date his recast as his first draft. Thus Handsome Heart was written and sent to me in 79, and the recast, which I reject, was not made before 83, while the final corrections may be some years later, and yet his last autograph is dated as the first Oxford 79. Selection. This edition purports to convey all the author's serious mature poems, and he would probably not have wished any of his earlier poems, nor so many or his fragments to have been included. Of the former class 3 specimens only are admitted, and these, which may be considered of exceptional merit or interest, had already been given to the public, but of the latter almost everything, because these scraps being of mature date, generally contain some special beauty of thought or diction, and are invariably of metrical or rhythmical interest. Some of them are in this respect as remarkable as anything in the volume. As for exclusion, no translations of any kind are published here, whether into Greek or Latin from the English of which there are autographs and copies in A, or the Englishing of Latin hymns occurring in H. These last are not in my opinion of special merit, and with them I class a few religious pieces which will be noticed later. Author's prosody. Of the peculiar scheme of prosody invented and developed by the author a full account is out of the question. His own preface together with his description of the metrical scheme of each poem, which is always, wherever it exists, transcribed in the notes, may be a sufficient guide for practical purposes. Moreover, the intention of the rhythm, in places where it might seem doubtful, has been indicated by accents printed over the determining syllables. In the later poems these accents correspond generally with the author's own marks. In the earlier poems they do not, but are trustworthy translations. Marks. It was at one time the author's practice to use a very elaborate system of marks, all indicating the speech movement. The autograph, in A, of Harry Plowman carries 7 different marks, each one defined at the foot. When reading through his letters for the purpose of determining dates, I noted a few sentences on this subject which will justify the method that I have followed in the text. In 1883 he wrote, "You were right to leave out the marks. They were not consistent for one thing, and are always offensive. Still there must be some. Either I must invent a notation applied throughout as in music, or else I must only mark where the reader is likely to mistake, and for the present this is what I shall do. And again in 85, this is my difficulty, what marks to use and when to use them, they are so much needed and yet so objectionable. Punctuation. About punctuation my mind is clear. I can give a rule for everything I write myself, and even for other people, though they might not agree with me perhaps. In this last matter the autographs are rigidly respected, the rare intentional aberration being scrupulously noted. And so I have respected his indentation of the verse, but in the sonnets, while my indentation corresponds, as a rule, with some autograph, I have felt free to consider conveniences, following, however, his growing practice to eschew it altogether. Apart from questions of taste, and if these poems were to be arraigned for errors of what may be called taste, they might be convicted of occasional affectation in metaphor, as where the hills are as a stallion stalwart, very violet sweet, or of some perversion of human feeling, as, for instance, the nostrils' relish of incense along the sanctuary side, or the Holy Ghost with warm breast and with bright wings. These and a few such examples are mostly efforts to force emotion into theological or sectarian channels, as in the calm fortless unconfessed and the unpoetic line his mystery must be in stress stressed, or, again, the exaggerated Marianism of some pieces, or the naked encounter of sensualism and asceticism which hurts the golden echo. Style apart, I say, from such faults of taste, which few as they numerically are yet affect my liking and more repel my sympathy than do all the rude shocks of his purely artistic wantonness. Apart from these there are definite faults of style which a reader must have courage to face, and must in some measure condone before he can discover the great beauties. For these blemishes in the poet's style are of such quality and magnitude as to deny him even a hearing from those who love a continuous literary decorum and are grown to be intolerant of its absence. And it is well to be clear that there is no pretense to reverse the condemnation of those faults, for which the poet has duly suffered. The extravagances are and will remain what they were. Nor can credit be gained from pointing them out, yet, to put readers at their ease, I will here define them. They may be called oddity and obscurity. Oddity, and since the first may provoke laughter when a writer serious, and this poet is always serious, while the latter must prevent him from being understood, and this poet has always something to say, it may be assumed that they were not a part of his intention. Something of what he thought on this subject may be seen in the following extracts from his letters. In February 1879, he wrote, "All therefore that I think of doing is to keep my verses together in one place. At present I have not even correct copies, that, if anyone should like, they might be published after my death. And that again is unlikely, as well as remote. No doubt my poetry errs on the side of oddness. I hope in time to have a more balanced and Miltonic style. But as air, melody, is what strikes me most of all in music and design in painting, so design, pattern, or what I am in the habit of calling inscape is what I above all aim at in poetry. Now it is the virtue of design, pattern, or inscape to be distinctive, and it is the vice of distinctiveness to become queer. This vice I cannot have escaped. And again 2 months later. Moreover, the oddness may make them repulsive at first, and yet Lang might have liked them on a second reading. Indeed, when, on somebody returning me the Eurydice, I opened and read some lines, as one commonly reads whether prose or verse, with the eyes, so to say, only it struck me aghast with a kind of raw nakedness and unmitigated violence I was unprepared for, but take breath and read it with the ears, as I always wish to be read, and my verse becomes all right. Obscurity, as regards oddity, then, it is plain that the poet was himself fully alive to it, but he was not sufficiently aware of obscurity, and he could not understand why his friends found his sentences so difficult. He would never have believed that, among all the ellipses and liberties of his grammar, the one chief cause is his habitual omission of the relative pronoun, and yet this is so. And the examination of a simple example or two may serve a general purpose. Omission of relative pronoun. This grammatical liberty, though it is a common convenience in conversation and has therefore its proper place in good writing, is apt to confuse the parts of speech, and to reduce a normal sequence of words to mere jargon. Writers who carelessly rely on their elliptical speech forms to govern the elaborate sentences of their literary composition little know what a conscious effort of interpretation they often impose on their readers. But it was not carelessness in Gerard Hopkins. He had full skill and practice and scholarship in conventional forms, and it is easy to see that he banished these purely constructional syllables from his verse because they took up room which he thought he could not afford them. He needed in his scheme all his space for his poetical words, and he wished those to crowd out every merely grammatical colorless or toneless element. And so when he had got into the habit of doing without these relative pronouns, though he must, I suppose, have supplied them in his thought, he abuses the license beyond precedent, as when he writes, number 17, O hero savest, for O hero that savest. Identical forms. Another example of this, from the 5th stanza of number 23, will discover another cause of obscurity. The line, squander the hellrook ranks sally to molest him, means scatter the ranks that sally to molest him. But since the words squander and sally occupy similar positions in the two sections of the verse, and are enforced by a similar accentuation, the second verb deprived of its pronoun will follow the first and appear as an imperative, and there is nothing to prevent its being so taken but the contradiction that it makes in the meaning. Whereas the grammar should expose and enforce the meaning, not have to be determined by the meaning. Moreover, there is no way of enunciating this line which will avoid the confusion, because if, knowing that Sally should not have the same intonation as squander, the reader mitigates the accent, and in doing so lessens or obliterates the caesural pause which exposes its accent, then ranks becomes a genitive and Sally a substantive. Here, then, is another source of the poet's obscurity, that in aiming at condensation he neglects the need that there is for care in the placing of words that are grammatically ambiguous. English swarms with words that have one identical form for substantive, adjective, and verb, and such a word should never be so placed as to allow of any doubt as to what part of speech it is used for, because such ambiguity or momentary uncertainty destroys the force of the sentence. Now our author not only neglects this essential propriety, but he would seem even to welcome and seek artistic effect in the consequent confusion, and he will sometimes so arrange such words that a reader looking for a verb may find that he has 2 or 3 ambiguous monosyllables from which to select, and must be in doubt as to which promises best to give any meaning that he can welcome, and then, after his choice is made, he may be left with some homeless monosyllable still on his hands. Homophones. Nor is our author apparently sensitive to the irrelevant suggestions that our numerous homophones cause, and he will provoke further ambiguities or obscurities by straining the meaning of these unfortunate words. Rhymes. Finally, the rhymes where they are peculiar are often repellent, and so far from adding charm to the verse that they appear as obstacles. This must not blind one from recognizing that Gerard Hopkins, where he is simple and straightforward in his rhyme, is a master of it. There are many instances, but when he indulges in freaks, his childishness is incredible. His intention in such places is that the verses should be recited as running on without pause, and the rhyme occurring in their midst should be like a phonetic accident, merely satisfying the prescribed form. But his phonetic rhymes are often indefensible on his own principle. The rhyme to communion in the Bugler is hideous, and the suspicion that the poet thought it ingenious is appalling. Eternal, in the Eurydice, does not correspond with Bernal, and in Felix Randall and Some and Handsome is as truly an I rhyme as the love and prove which he despised and abjured, and it is more distressing, because the old-fashioned conventional I rhymes are accepted as such without speech adaptation, and to many ears are a pleasant relief from the fixed jingle of the perfect rhyme, whereas his false ear rhymes ask to have their slight but indispensable differences obliterated in the reading, and thus they expose their defect, which is of a disagreeable and vulgar or even comic quality. He did not escape full criticism and ample ridicule for such things in his lifetime, and in '83 he wrote, "Some of my rhymes I regret, but they are past changing, grubs and amber, there are only a few of these, others are unassailable, some others again there are which malignity may munch at but the muses love." Euphony and emphasis. Now these are bad faults, and, as I said, a reader, if he is to get any enjoyment from the author's genius, must be somewhat tolerant of them, and they have a real relation to the means whereby the very forcible and original effects of beauty are produced. There is nothing stranger in these poems than the mixture of passages of extreme delicacy and exquisite diction with passages where, in a jungle of rough root words, emphasis seems to oust euphony, and both these qualities, emphasis and euphony, appear in their extreme forms. It was an idiosyncrasy of this student's mind to push everything to its logical extreme, and take pleasure in a paradoxical result, as may be seen in his prosody where a simple theory seems to be used only as a basis for unexampled liberty. He was flattered when I called him paratutatos, and saw the humor of it, and one would expect to find in his work the force of emphatic condensation and the magic of melodious expression, both in their extreme forms. Now, since those who study style in itself must allow a proper place to the emphatic expression, this experiment, which supplies as novel examples of success as of failure, should be full of interest, and such interest will promote tolerance. The fragment, of which a facsimile is given after page 92, is the draft of what appears to be an attempt to explain how an artist has not free will in his creation. He works out his own nature instinctively as he happens to be made, and is irresponsible for the result. It is lamentable that Gerard Hopkins died when, to judge by his latest work, he was beginning to concentrate the force of all his luxuriant experiments in rhythm and diction, and castigate his art into a more reserved style. Few will read the terrible posthumous sonnets without such high admiration and respect for his poetical power as must lead them to search out the rare masterly beauties that distinguish his work. Notes. Page 1. Author's Preface. This is from B, and must have been written in 83 or not much later. The punctuation has been exactly followed, except that I have added a comma after the word language in the last line but one of page 5, where the omission seemed an oversight. Page 4 L. 21. Rove over. This expression is used here to denote the running on of the sense and sound of the end of a verse into the beginning of the next, but this meaning is not easily to be found in the word. The two words reeve, pf rove, which is also a pf of rive, and reeve, pf reft, are both used several times by Gmh, but they are both spelt reeve. In the present context, rove and reeving occur in his letters, and the spelling reeve in the Deutschland, 12:8, is probably due to the copyists. There is no doubt that G.M.H. had a wrong notion of the meaning of the nautical term reeve. Number 39, line 10, the third passage where reeve, spelt reeve, occurs, and a nautical meaning is required, see the note there, would be satisfied by splice, nautical, and if this notion were influenced by weave, wove, that would describe the interweaving of the verses. In the passage referred to in the Deutschland, reeve is probably intended in its dialectal or common speech significance. See Wright's English Dialect Dictionary, where the first sense of the verb given is to bring together the gathers of a dress, and in this sense reeve is in common use. Page 7. Early poems. 2 school prize poems exist. The date of the first, the Escorial, is Easter 60, which is before poems Gmh was 16 years old. It is in Spenserian stanza. The imperfect copy in another hand has the first 15 stanzas omitting the 9th, and the author has written on it his motto, Batraxos de Podocritas os Tisarista, with an accompanying gloss to explain his allusions. Though wholly lacking the Byronic flush, it looks as if influenced by the historical descriptions in Childe Harold, and might provide a quotation for a tourist's guide to Spain. The history seems competent, and the artistic knowledge precocious. Here for a sample is the 7th stanza. This was no classic temple ordered round with massy pillars of the Doric mood broad-fluted, nor with shafts acanthus ground, portrayed along the frieze with Titans brood that battled gods for heaven, brilliant-hued, with golden fillets and rich blazonry, wherein beneath the cornice, horsemen rode with form divine, a fiery chivalry, triumph of airy grace and perfect harmony. The second prize poem, A Vision of Mermaids, is dated Christmas 62. The autograph of this, which is preserved, is headed by a very elaborate circular pen and ink drawing, 6 inches in diameter, a sunset sea piece with rocks and formal groups of mermaidens, 5 or 6 together, singing as they stand, apparently, half immersed in the shallows as described. But most in a half circle watch the sun and sea. This poem is in 143 lines of heroics. It betrays the influence of Keats, and when I introduced the author to the public in Miles's book, I quoted from it, thinking it useful to show that his difficult later style was not due to inability to excel in established forms. The poem is altogether above the standard of school prizes. I reprint the extract here. Soon, as when summer of his sister's spring crushes and tears the rare indruling, and boasting I have fairer things than these plashes amidst the billowy apple trees his lusty hands, in gusts of scented wind swirling out bloom till all the air is blind with rosy foam and pelting blossom and mists of driving vermorane. And, as he lists, the dainty onyx coronals deflowers, a glorious wanton. All the wrecks and showers crowd down upon a stream, and jostling thick with bubbles bugle-eyed, struggle and stick on tangled shoals that bar the brook, a crowd of filmy globes and rosy floating cloud, so those mere maidens crowded to my rock. But most in a half-circle watched the sun, and a sweet sadness dwelt on every one. I knew not why, but know that sadness dwells on mermaids, whether that they ring the knells of seamen whelmed in chasms of the mid-main, as poets sing, or that it is a pain to know the dusk depths of the ponderous sea, the miles profound of solid green, and be with loath cold fishes, far from man, or what? I know the sadness, but the cause know not. Then they, thus range, gone make full plaintively a piteous siren sweetness on the sea, without an instrument, or conch, or bell, or stretched chords tunable on turtle's shell, only with utterance of sweet breath they sung an antique chaunt, and in an unknown tongue. Now melting upward through the sloping scales swelled the sweet strain to a melodious wail, now ringing clarion clear to whence it rose slumbered at last in one sweet, deep, heartbroken close. 1862 to 1868. After the relics of his school poems follow the poems written when an undergraduate at Oxford, of which there are 4 in this book, numbers 1, 2, 3, and 52, all dating about 1866. Of this period some 10 or 12 autograph poems exist, the most successful being religious verses worked in Geo Herbert's manner, and these, I think, have been printed. There are 2 sonnets in Italian form and Shakespearean mood, refused by Cornhill magazine. The rest are attempts at lyrical poems, mostly sentimental aspects of death. One of them, Winter with the Gulf Stream, was published in Once a Week, and reprinted at least in part in some magazine. The autograph copy is dated August 1871, but G. M. H. told me that he wrote it when he was at school, whence I guessed that he altered it too much to allow of its early dating. The following is a specimen of his signature at this date. Gerard M. Hopkins. July 24, 1866. Transcriber's note: this signature and date is displayed as a handwritten image in the original. 1868 to 1875. After these last mentioned poems there is a gap of silence which may be accounted for in his own words from a letter to R. W. D. October 5, 78. What verses I had written I burnt before I became a Jesuit, i.e. 1868, and resolved to write no more, as not belonging to my profession, unless it were by the wish of my superiors. So for 7 years I wrote nothing but 2 or 3 little presentation pieces which occasion called for. But when in the winter of '75 the Deutschland was wrecked in the mouth of the Thames and 5 Franciscan nuns, exiles from Germany by the Falk laws, aboard of her were drowned, I was affected by the account, and happening to say so to my rector he said that he wished someone would write a poem on the subject. On this hint I set to work and, though my hand was out at first, produced one. I had long had haunting my ear the echo of a new rhythm which now I realized on paper. I do not say the idea is altogether new, but no one has professedly used it and made it the principle throughout, that I know of. However, I had to mark the stresses, and a great many more oddnesses could not but dismay an editor's eye, so that when I offered it to our magazine The Month, they dared not print it. Of the 2 or 3 presentation pieces here mentioned, one is certainly the Marian verses Rosa Mystica, published in the Irish Monthly, May '98, and again in Orby Shipley's Carmina Mariana, 2nd series, page 183, the autograph exists. Another is supposed to be the Ad Mariam, printed in the Stonyhurst magazine, February '94. This is in 5 stanzas of 8 lines, in direct and competent imitation of Swinburne. No autograph has been found, and unless F.R. Hopkins's views of poetic form had been provisionally deranged or suspended, the verses can hardly be attributed to him without some impeachment of his sincerity, and that being altogether above suspicion, I would not yield to the rather strong presumption which their technical skill supplies in favor of his authorship. It is true that the Rosa Mystica is somewhat in the same light lilting manner, but that was probably common to most of these festal verses, and Rosa Mystica is not open to the positive objections of verbal criticism which would reject the ad Mariam. He never sent me any copy of either of these pieces, as he did of his Severum Marian poems, numbers 18 and 37, nor mentioned them as productions of his serious muse. I do not find that in either class of these attempts he met with any appreciation at the time. It was after the publication of Miles's book in 1894 that his co-religionists began to recognize his possible merits, and their enthusiasm has not perhaps been always wise. It is natural that they should, as some of them openly state they do, prefer the poems that I am rejecting to those which I print, but this edition was undertaken in response to a demand that, both in England and America, has gradually grown up from the genuinely poetic interest felt in the poems which I have gradually introduced to the public. That interest has been no doubt welcomed and accompanied by the applause of his particular religious associates, but since their purpose is alien to mine, I regret that I am unable to indulge it, nor can I put aside the overruling objection that G. M. H. would not have wished these little presentation pieces to be set among his more serious artistic work. I do not think that they would please any one who is likely to be pleased with this book. 1. St. Dorothea. Written when an exhibitioner at Balliol College. Contemporary autograph in A, and another almost identical in H, both undated. Text from A. This poem was afterwards expanded, shedding its relative pronouns, to 48 lines divided among 3 speakers, an angel, the protonotary Theophilus, and a catechumen. The grace and charm of original lost. There is an autograph in A and other copies exist. This was the first of the poems that I saw, and G. M. H. wrote it out for me, in 1866. 2. Heaven Haven. Contemporary autograph, on same page with last, in H. Text is from a slightly later autograph undated in A. The different copies vary. 3. Habit of Perfection. 2 autographs in A. The earlier dated January 18, 1866. The second, which is a good deal altered, is apparently of same date as text of number 2. Text follows this later version. Published in Miles. 4. Wreck of the Deutschland. Text from B, title from A, see description of B on page 94. In the spirit of man, the original first stanza is given from A, and varies, otherwise B was not much corrected. Another transcript, now at St. Aloysius College, Glasgow, was made by Rev. F. Bacon after A but before the correction of B. This was collated for me by the Rev. Father Geoffrey Bliss, S.J., and gave one true reading. Its variants are distinguished by G in the notes to the poem. The labor spent on this great metrical experiment must have served to establish the poet's prosody and perhaps his diction. Therefore the poem stands logically as well as chronologically in the front of his book, like a great dragon folded in the gate to forbid all entrance, and confident in his strength from past success. This editor advises the reader to circumvent him and attack him later in the rear, for he was himself shamefully worsted in a brave frontal assault, the more easily perhaps because both subject and treatment were distasteful to him. A good method of approach is to read stanza 16 aloud to a chance company. To the metrist and rhythmist the poem will be of interest from the first, and throughout. Stanza 4. 1-7. Father Bliss tells me that the Vole is a mountain not far from St. Buenos College in N. Wales, where the poem was written, and Dr. Henry Bradley that mole is primarily an adj meaning bald, it becomes a fem, substitute meaning bare hill, and preceded by the article y becomes vole, in modern Welsh spelt full. This accounts for its being written without initial capital, the word being used genetically, and the meaning, obscured by roped, is that the well is fed by the trickles of water within the flanks of the mountains. Both A and B read planks for flanks. G gives the correction. St. 11. 5. 2 of the required stresses are on we dream. St. 12. 8. Reeve, see note on author's preface, page 101. St. 14. 8. These. G has there, but the words between shock and these are probably parenthetical. St. 16. 3. Landsmen may not observe the wrongness. See again number 17, St. 9, and 39, line 10. I would have cor wrecked this if the euphony had not accidentally forbidden the simplest correction. ST16. 7. Foam fleece followed by full stop in A and B, by a comma in G. ST19. 3. Hauling thus spelt in all three. ST21. 2. G omits the. ST26. 5 and 6. The semicolon is autographic correction in B. The stop at way is uncertain in A and B, is a comma in G. ST29. 3. Night sick. 8. 2 of the required stresses are on Tarpeian. ST34. 8. Shire. G has shore, but Shire is doubtless right, it is the special favored landscape visited by the shower. 5. Penmean pool. Early copy in A, text, title, and punctuation from autograph in B, dated Barmouth, Merionethshire. August 1876 foot. But that autograph writes leisure for pleasure in first line, skulls in stanza 2, and in stanza 8, month has a capital initial. Several copies exist, and vary. ST3. 2. Cadaridris is written as a note to Giant's Stool. ST8. 4. Several variants. 2 good copies read darksome danksome, but the early copy in A has darksome, which B returns to. ST9. 3. A has but praise it, and 2 good copies but honor it. 6. The Silver Jubilee, in honor of the Most Reverend James I, Bishop of Shrewsbury. St. Buenos, Vale of CLWYD. 1876, I think. A. Text and title from autograph in B. It was published with somebody's sermon on the same occasion. Another copy in H. 7. God's Grandeur. Standard rhythm counterpoised. 2 autographs, February 23, 1877, and March 1877, in A. Text is from corrections in B. The second version in A has lightning for shining in line 2, explained in a letter of January 4, 83. B returns to original word. 8. The Starlight Night. February 24, 77, autograph in A. Standard rhythm opened and counterpoint. March 77, A. Later corrected version St. Buenos, February 77 in B. Text follows B. The second version in A was published in Miles's book Poets and Poetry of the Century. 9. Spring. Standard rhythm, opening with sprung leadings, May 1877, autograph in A. Text from corrections in B, but punctuation from A, was published in Miles's book from incomplete correction of A. 10. The Lantern. Standard rhythm, with 1 sprung lead ing and 1 line counterpuncted, autograph in A. Text, title, and accents in lines 13 and 14, from corrections in B, where it is called companion to number 26, St. Buenos 77. 11. Walking by the Sea. Standard rhythm, in parts sprung and in others counterpuncted, Rill, May 77, A. This version deleted in B, and the revision given in text written in with new title. G. M. H. was not pleased with this sonnet, and wrote the following explanation of it in a letter 82, Rash fresh more, it is dreadful to explain these things in cold blood, means a headlong and exciting new snatch of singing. Resumption by the lark of his song, which by turns he gives over and takes up again all day long, and this goes on, the sonnet says, through all time, without ever losing its first freshness, being a thing both new and old. Repair means the same thing, renewal, resumption. The skein and coil are the lark's song, which from his height gives the impression of something falling to the earth and not vertically quite but tricklingly or wavingly, something as a skein of silk ribbed by having been tightly wound on a narrow card or a notched holder, or as twine or fishing tackle unwinding from a reel or winch, or as pearls strung on a horsehair. The laps or folds are the notes, or short measures and bars of them. The same is called a score in the musical sense of score, and this score is writ upon a liquid sky trembling to welcome it, only not horizontally. The lark in wild glee races the reel round, paying or dealing out and down the turns of the skein or coil right to the earth floor, the ground, where it lies in a heap, as it were, or rather is all wound off onto another winch, reel, bobbin or spool in fancy's eye, by the moment the bird touches earth, and so is ready for a fresh unwinding at the next flight. Crisp means almost crisped, namely with notes. 12. The wind hover. Falling Paeonic rhythm, sprung and outriding. 2 contemporary autographs in A. Text and dedication from corrected B, dated St. Buenos, May 30, 1877. In a letter June 22, 79, I shall shortly send you an amended copy of the wind hover. The amendment only touches a single line, I think, but as that is the best thing I ever wrote, I should like you to have it in its best form. 13. Pied Beauty. Curdle Sonnet, sprung Paeonic rhythm. St. Buenos, Tremerkian. Summer 77, autograph in A. B agrees. 14. Hurrahing in Harvest, sonnet, sprung and outriding rhythm. Take notice that the outriding feet are not to be confused with dactyls or paeans, though sometimes the line might be scanned either way. The strong syllable in an outriding foot has always a great stress, and after the outrider follows a short pause. The paean is easier and more flowing. Vale of Clwyd, September 1, 1877, autograph in A. Text is from corrected B, punctuation of original A. In a letter 78 he wrote, "The hurrahing sonnet was the outcome of half an hour of extreme enthusiasm as I walked home alone one day from fishing in the Elwey." Also notes, no counterpoint. 15. The Caged Skylark. Falling Paeonic rhythm, sprung and outriding, autograph in A. Text from corrected B, which dates St. Buenos, 1877. In line 13 B writes uncumbered. 16. In the Valley of the Elwey. Standard rhythm, sprung and counterpoint, autograph in A. Text is from corrected B, which dates as contemporary with number 15, adding for the companion to this see no. 35. 17. The Loss of the Eurydice. A contemporary copy in A has this note, written in sprung rhythm. The third line has 3 beats, the rest 4. The scanning runs on without break to the end of the stanza, so that each stanza is rather one long line rhymed in passage than 4 lines with rhymes at the ends. B has an autograph of the poem as it came to be corrected, 83 or after, without the above note, and dated Mount St. Mary, Derbyshire, April 78. Text follows B. The injurious rhymes are partly explained in the old note. St. 9. Shorten sail. The seamanship at fault. But this expression may be glossed by supposing the boatswain to have sounded that call on his whistle. St. 12. Cheers death, i.e. despair. St. 14. It is even seen. In a letter May 30, 78, he explains, "You mistake the sense of this as I feared it would be mistaken. I believed Hare to be a brave and conscientious man. What I say is that even those who seem unconscientious will act the right part at a great push. About more holes I wince a little." St. 26. A starlight wender, i.e. the island was so Marian that the folk supposed the Milky Way was a fingerpost to guide pilgrims to the shrine of the Virgin at Walsingham. And one, that is Duns Scotus, the champion of the Immaculate Conception. See sonnet number 20. St. 27. Well wept. Grammar is as in well hit. Well run. And C. The meaning you do well to weep. St. 28. O hero savest. Omission of relative pronoun at its worst. Equals O hero that savest. The prayer is in a mourner's mouth, who prays that Christ will have saved her hero, and in stanza 29 the grammar triumphs. 18. The Me Magnificat. Sprung rhythm, 4 stresses in each line of the first couplet, 3 in each of the second. Stonyhurst, May 78, autograph in A. Text from later autograph in B. He wrote to me, "A May piece in which I see little good but the freedom of the rhythm." In Penault stanza cuckoo has its hyphen deleted in B, leaving the word separate. 19. Binsey Poplars, Feld 1879. Oxford, March 1879, autograph in A. Text from B, which alters 4 places. L. 8. Weed winding, an early draft has weed winden. 20. Duns Scotus's Oxford. Oxford, March 1879, autograph in A. Copy in B agrees but dates 1878. 21. Henry Purcell. Alexandrine, 6 stresses to the line. Oxford, April 1879, autograph in A with argument as printed. Copy in B is uncorrected except that it adds the word fresh in last line. Have fair fallen. Have is the sing, imperative, or optative if you like, of the past, a thing possible and actual both in logic and grammar, but naturally a rare one. As in the second pers we say, have done, or in Mac ing appointments, have had your dinner beforehand. So one can say in the third pers not only fair fall, of what is present or future, but also have fair fallen, of what is past. The same thought, which plays a great part in my own mind and action, is more clearly expressed in the last stanza but one of the Eurydice, where you remarked it. Letter to R. B. February 3, 83. The sestet of the Purcell sonnet is not so clearly worked out as I could wish. The thought is that as the seabird opening his wings with a whiff of wind in your face means the whir of the motion, but also unaware gives you a whiff of knowledge about his plumage, the marking of which stamps his species, that he does not mean, so Purcell, seemingly intent only on the thought or feeling he is to express or call out, incidentally lets you remark the individualizing marks of his own genius. Sake is a word I find it convenient to use. It is the sake of. For the sake of. Forsake, namesake, keepsake. I mean by it the being a thing has outside itself, as a voice by its echo, a face by its reflection, a body by its shadow, a man by his name, fame, or memory, and also that in the thing by virtue of which especially it has this being abroad, and that is something distinctive, marked, specifically or individually speaking, as for a voice and echo clearness, for a reflected image light brightness, for a shadow casting body bulk, for a man genius, great achievements, amiability, and so on. In this case it is, as the sonnet says, distinctive quality in genius. By moon marks I mean crescent-shaped markings on the quill feathers, either in the coloring of the feather or made by the overlapping of one on another. Letter to R. B. May 26, 79. 22. Peace, Oxford, 1879, autograph in B, where comma after daunting is due to following a deletion. To own my heart equals to my own heart. Reaving peace, i.e. when he reaves or takes peace away, as number 35, L. 12. An early draft dated October 2, 79, has taking for reaving. 23. The Bugler's First Communion. Sprung rhythm, over ove, and outright between the third and fourth foot of the fourth line in each stanza. Oxford, July 27, 1879. A. My copy of this in B shows 3 emendations. First draft exists in H. Text is A with the corrections from B. At 9 lines from N, though this A has now this, and now is deliberately preferred in H. B has some uncorrected miscopyings of A. 04 now, charms of A is already a correction in H. I should like a comma at end of first line of 5th stanza and an interjection mark at end of that stanza. 24. Morning, midday, and evening sacrifice. Oxford, August 79, autograph in A, the first stanza reproduced after page 70. Copied by me into B, where it received cor rection. Text follows B except in lines 19 and 20, where the correction reads what death half lifts the latch of, what hell hopes soon the snatch of. And punctuation is not all followed. Original has comma after the second this in lines 5 and 6. On June 30, 86, G. M. H. wrote to Canon Dixon, who wished to print the first stanza alone in some anthology, and made ad hoc alterations which I do not follow. The original 17th line was silk ash but core not cooling, and was altered because of its obscurity. I meant, he wrote, to compare grey hairs to the flakes of silky ash which may be seen round wood embers, and covering a core of heat. Your offer ing, with dispatch, of is said like your ticket, your reasons, your money or your life. It is, come, your offer of all this, the matured mind, and without delay either. 25. Andromeda. Oxford, August 12, 79. Which be cor rex in 2 places only. Text rejects the first, in line 4 dragon for dragons, but follows B in line 10, where a had air, pillowy air. There is no comma at bare bill in any MS, but a gap and sort of caesural mark in A. In a letter August 14, 79, G. M. H. writes, I enclose a sonnet on which I invite minute criticism. I endeavored in it at a more Miltonic plainness and severity than I have anywhere else. I cannot say it has turned out severe, still less plain, but it seems almost free from quaintness, and in aiming at one excellence I may have hit another. 26. The Candle Indoors. Common rhythm, counterpointed. Oxford 79. A. Text takes corrections of B, which adds companion to no. 10. A has in line 2 with a yellowy, and 5 at that. 27. The Handsome Heart. Common rhythm counterpointed. Oxford 79. A 1. In August of the same year he wrote that he was surprised at my liking it, and in deference to my criticism sent a revised A2. Subsequently he recast the sonnet mostly in the longer 6 stress lines, and wrote that into B. In that final version the charm and freshness have disappeared. And his emendation in evading the clash of ply and reply is awkward. Also the 14 lines now contain 7 whats. I have therefore taken A1 for the text, and have ventured, in line 8, to restore how to in the place of what, from the original version which exists in H. In the spirit of man I gave a mixture of A1 and A2. In line 5 the word soul is in H and A1, but A2 and B have heart. Father in second line was the Rev. Father Gerard himself. He tells the whole story in a letter to me. 28. At a Wedding. Sprung Rhythm. Bedford, Lancashire, October 21, 79. A. Autograph uncorrected in B, but title changed to that in text. 29. Felix Randall. Sonnet, sprung in outriding rhythm, 6-foot lines. Liverpool, April 28, 80. A. Text from A with the 2 corrections of B. The comma in line 5 after impatient is omitted in copy in B. 30. Brothers. Sprung rhythm, 3 feet to the line, lines free-ended and not over-ove, and reversed or counterpointed rhythm allowed in the first foot. Hampstead, August 1880. 5 various drafts exist. A1 and A2 both of August 80. B was copied by me from A1, and author's emendations of it overlook those in A2. Text therefore is from A2 except that the first 7 lines, being rewritten in margin afresh, and confirmed in letter of AP 81 to Canon Dixon, as also corrections in lines 15 to 18, these are taken. But the B corrections of lines 22, 23, almost certainly imply forgetfulness of A caret. In last line B has correction dearly thou canst be kind, but the intention of I'll cry was original, and has 4 misses in its favor. 31. Spring and Fall. Sprung Rhythm. Lydiate, Lancashire, September 7, 1880. A. Text and title from B, which corrects 4 lines, and misdates 81. There is also a copy in D, January 81, and C again April 6, 81. In line 2 the last word is unleafing and most of the misses in attempt to amend the second rhyme was unsuccessful. 32. Spelt from Sybil's Leaves. Sonnet, sprung rhythm, arrest of one stress in the first line, autograph in another later in B, which is taken for text. Date unrecorded lines 5, 6, astray thus divided to show the rhyme. 6. Through there and adj, now confined to dialect. It is the speech form of through other, in which shape it eludes pursuit in the Oxford Dictionary. Dr. Murray compares Gr. Durcheinander. Mr. Craigie tells me that the classical quotation for it is from Burns's Halloween, St. 5, they roar and cry through their. Line 8. With I.e. I suppose, with your warning that, and c. The heart is speaking. 9. Be cleaved is not hyphened in ms. 11. Part, pen, pack, imperatives of the verbs, in the sense of sorting the sheep from the goats. 12. A has wrong right, but the correction to right wrong in B is intentional. 14. Sheath in both misses, but I can only make sense of sheath, i.e. sheathless and shelterless. The accents in this poem are a selection from A and B. 33. Inversnade. September 28, 1881, autograph in H. I have found no other trace of this poem. 34. As Kingfishers. Text from undated autograph in H, a draft with corrections and variants. In lines 3 and 4 hung and to fling out broad are corrections and same later penciling has line 5, which occurs only thus with them. Insist that the first 3 lines have alternatives of regular rhythm, thus. Then I say more, the just man justices, keeps grace and that keeps all his goings graces, in God's eye acts, and c. Of these lines, In 9 and 10 the version given in text is later than the regular lines just quoted, and probably pre-Farade. In L. 11 the alternatives apparently of same date. 35. Ribblesdale. Stonyhurst, 1882, autograph in A, text from later autograph in B, which adds companion to number 10, equals 16. There is a third autograph in D, June 83 with different punctuation which gives the comma between 2 and within line 3. The dash after man is from A and D, both of which quote nam expectatio creaturi, and C, from Romans 8. 19. In the letter to R. W. D. he writes, "Louched is a coinage of mine, and is to mean much the same as slouched, slouching, and I mean throng for an adjective as we use it in Lancashire. But louch has ample authority, see the English Dialect Dictionary." 36. The Leaden Echo and the Golden Echo. Stonyhurst, October 13, 82, autograph in A. Copy of this with autograph corrections dated Hampstead 81, sic, in B. Text takes all B's corrections, but respects punctuation of A, except that I have added the comma after God and last line of page 56. For the drama of Winefred, see among posthumous fragments, number 58. In NOV. 1882 he wrote to me, "I am somewhat dismayed about that piece and have laid it aside for a while. I cannot satisfy myself about the first line. You must know that words like charm and enchantment will not do. The thought is of beauty as of something that can be physically kept and lost, and by physical things only, like keys. Then the things must come from the mundus muliebris, and thirdly they must not be markedly old-fashioned. You will see that this limits the choice of words very much indeed. However, I shall make some changes. Back is not pretty, but it gives that feeling of physical constraint which I want, and in October 86 to R. W. D. I never did anything more musical." 37. Mary Mother of Divine Grace compared to the air we breathe. Stonyhurst, May 83, autograph in A. Text and title from later autograph in B. Taken by Dean Beeching into a Book of Christmas verse 1895 and thence, incorrectly, by Orby Shipley and Carmina Mariana. Stated in a letter to R. W. D. June 25, 83, to have been written to hang up among the verse compositions in the tongues. I did a piece in the same meter as Blue in the Mist all day. Note Chaucer's account of the physical properties of the air, House of Fame, 2. 256 seek. 38. To what serves mortal beauty? Common rhythm highly stressed, sonnet, August 23, 85, autograph in A. Another autograph in B with a few variants from which it was chosen, the deletion of alternatives incomplete. Thirdly, a copy sent to R. W. D. apparently later than A, but with errors of copy. The text given is guided by this version in D, and needs in line 9 is substituted there for the once in A and B, probably because of once in line 6. Original draft exists in H, on same page with 39 and 40. The following is his signature at this date. Your affectionate friend Gerard M. Hopkins S.J. May 29, 1885. Transcriber's note: this signature and date is displayed as a handwritten image in the original. 39. Soldier. Clongower, August 1885. Autograph in H, with a few corrections which I have taken for lines 6 and 7, of which the first draft runs. It fancies, it deems, dears the artist after his art, so feigns it finds as, and see. The MS marks the caesural place in 10 of the lines in line 2, between both and these. L3, at the full stop. L6, fancies, feigns, deems, take 3 stresses. L11, after man. In line 7 I have added a comma at smart. In L10 I have substituted handle for reeve of MS. See note on reeve, page 101, and in L13 have hyphened God made flesh. No title in MS. 40. Carrion Comfort. Autograph in H, in 3 versions. First, deleted draft. Second, a complete version, both on same page with 38 and 39. Third, with 41 on another sheet. Final, revision carried only to end of 1. 12. 2 detached lines on reverse. Text is this last with last two lines from the second version. Date must be 1885, and this is probably the sonnet written in blood, of which he wrote in May of that year. I have added the title and the hyphen in heaven handling. 41. No worst. Autograph in H, on same page as third draft of 40. One undated draft with corrections embodied in the text here. L. 5. At end are some marks which look like a hyphen and a comma, no title. 42. Tom's Garland. Sonnet common rhythm, but with hurried feet, 2 codas. Dromore, September 87. With full title, A. Another autograph and B is identical. In line 9 there is a strong accent on I. L. 10. The capital initial of country is doubtful. Rhythmical marks omitted. The author's own explanation of this poem may be read in a letter written to me from Dublin, February 10, 88. I laughed outright and often, but very sardonically, to think you and the canon could not construe my last sonnet, that he had to write to you for a crib. It is plain I must go no further on this road. If you and he cannot understand me, who will? Yet, declaimed, the strange constructions would be dramatic and effective. Must I interpret it? It means then that, as St. Paul and Plato and Hobbes and everybody says, the commonwealth or well-ordered human society is like one man, a body with many members and each its function, some higher, some lower, but all honorable, from the honor which belongs to the whole. The head is the sovereign, who has no superior but God and from heaven receives his or her authority. We must then imagine this head as bare, see St. Paul much on this, and covered, so to say, only with the sun and stars, of which the crown is a symbol, which is an ornament but not a covering. It has an enormous hat or skullcap, the vault of heaven. The foot is the day laborer, and this is armed with hobnail boots, because it has to wear and be worn by the ground, which again is symbolical, for it is navvies or day laborers who, on the great scale or in gangs and millions, mainly trench, tunnel, blast, and in other ways disfigure, mamic, the earth and, on a small scale, singly, and superficially stamp it with their footprints. And the garlands of nails they wear are therefore the visible badge of the place they fill, the lowest in the commonwealth. But this place still shares the common honor, and if it wants one advantage, glory or public fame, makes up for it by another, ease of mind, absence of care, and these things are symbolized by the gold and the iron garlands. Oh, once explained, how clear it all is! Therefore the scene of the poem is late at evening, when they are giving over work and one after another plow their picks, with which they earn their living, and swing off home, knocking sparks out of Mother Earth not now by labor and of choice but by the mere footing, being strong-shod and making no hardship of hardness, taking all easy. And so to supper in bed. Here comes a violent but effective hyperbaton or suspension, in which the action of the mind mimics that of the laborer, surveys his lot, low but free from care, then by a sudden strong act throws it over the shoulder or tosses it away as a light matter. The witnessing of which light-heartedness makes me indignant with the fools of radical levelers. But presently I remember that this is all very well for those who are in, however low in, the commonwealth and share in any way the commonweal, but that the curse of our times is that many do not share it, that they are outcast from it, and have neither security nor splendor, that they share care with the high and obscurity with the low, but wealth or comfort with neither. And this state of things, I say, is the origin of loafers, tramps, corner boys, roughs, socialists, and other pests of society. And I think that it is a very pregnant sonnet, and in point of execution very highly wrought, too much so, I am afraid. G.M.H. 43. Harry Plowman. Dromore, September 1887. Autograph in A. Autograph in B has several emendations written over without deletion of original. Text is B with these corrections, which are all good. Line 10. Features is the verb. 13. S is his. I have put a colon at plow, in place of author's full stop, for the convenience of reader. 15 equals his lily locks wind-laced. Saxos sir comminert brum. 17 them. These A. In the last 3 lines the grammar intends, how his churl's grace governs the movement of his booted, in bluff hide, feet, as they are matched in a race with the wet shining fro overturned by the share. G. M. H. thought well of this sonnet and wrote on September 28, 1887, I have been touching up some old sonnets you have never seen and have within a few days done the whole of one, I hope, very good one and most of another. The one finished is a direct picture of a plowman, without afterthought. But when you read it let me know if there is anything like it in Walt Whitman, as perhaps there may be, and I should be sorry for that. And again on October 11, 87, I will enclose the sonnet on Harry Plowman, in which burden lines, they might be recited by a chorus, are freely used. There is in this very heavily loaded sprung rhythm a call for their employment. The rhythm of this sonnet, which is altogether for recital, and not for perusal, as by nature verse should be, is very highly studied. From much consider it I can no longer gather any impression of it. Perhaps it will strike you as intolerably violent and artificial. And again on NOV 687, I want Harry Plowman to be a vivid figure before the mind's eye. If he is not, that the sonnet fails. The difficulties are of syntax, no doubt. Dividing a compound word by a clause sandwiched into it was a desperate deed, I feel, and I do not feel that it was an unquestionable success. 44, 45, 46, 47. These 4 sonnets, together with number 56, are all written undated in a small hand on the 2 sides of a half sheet of common sermon paper, in the order in which they are here printed. They probably date back as early as 1885, and may be all, or some of them, those referred to in a letter of September 1, 1885. I shall shortly have some sonnets to send you, 5 or more. 4 of these came like inspirations unbidden and against my will. And in the life I lead now, which is one of a continually jaded and harassed mind, if in any leisure I try to do anything I make no way, nor with my work, alas! But so it must be. I have no certain nor single identification of date. 44. To seem the stranger. H. With corrections which my text embodies. L. 14. Began. I have no other explanation than to suppose an omitted relative pronoun, like hero savest in number 17. The sentence would then stand for leaves me a lonely, one who only began. No title. 45. I wake and feel. H. With corrections which text embodies, no title. 46. Patience. As 45. L. 2. Patience is. The initial capital is mine, and the comma after ivy in line 6. No title. 47. My own heart. As 45. 1. 6. I have added the comma after comfortless. That word has the same grammatical value as dark in the following line. I cast for comfort, which I can no more find in my comfortless world than a blind man in his dark world. L. 10 ms. Accents let. 13 and 14. The text here from a good correction separately written, as far as mountains, on the top margin of number 56. There are therefore 2 writings of between pi, a strange word, in which pi apparently makes a compound verb with between, meaning as the sky seen between dark mountains is brightly dappled, the grammar such as intervariegates would make. This word might have delighted William Barnes, if the verb to pi existed. It seems not to exist, and to be forbidden by homophonic absurdities. 48. Heraclitean fire. Sprung rhythm, with many outrides and hurried feet, sonnet with 2 codas. July 26, 1888. Company Dublin. The last sonnet, this, provisional only, autograph in A. I have found no other copy nor trace of draft. The title is from A. Line 6, construct ion obscure, repeal may be a compound word, ms. Uncertain. 8. Omitted relative pronoun. If so equals the man marks that trade mire toil foot fretted in it. ms. Does not hyphen nor quite join up foot with fretted. 12. ms. Has no caesural mark. On August 18, 88, he wrote, I will now go to bed, the more so as I am going to preach tomorrow and put plainly to a Highland congregation of MacDonalds, Macintoshes, Mackillops, and the rest what I am putting not at all so plainly to the rest of the world, or rather to you and Canon Dixon, in a sonnet in sprung rhythm with 2 codas, and again on September 25, 88. Lately I sent you a sonnet on the Heraclitean fire, in which a great deal of early Greek philosophical thought was distilled, But the liquor of the distillation did not taste very Greek, did it? The effect of studying masterpieces is to make me admire, and do otherwise. So it must be on every original artist to some degree, on me to a marked degree. Perhaps then more reading would only refine my singularity, which is not what you want. Note that the sonnet has 3 codas, not 2. 49. Alphonsus. Text from autograph with title and upon the first falling of his feast after his canonization in B. An autograph in A, sent October 3 from Dublin asking for immediate criticism, because the sonnet had to go to Majorca. I ask your opinion of a sonnet written to order on the occasion of the first feast since his canonization proper of St. Alphonsus Rodriguez, a lay brother of our order, who for 40 years acted as hall porter to the College of Palma in Majorca. He was, it is believed, much favored by God with heavenly light and much persecuted by evil spirits. The sonnet, I say it snorting, aims at being intelligible, and on October 9, 88, I am obliged for your criticisms, contents of which noted, indeed acted on. I have improved the sestet. He defends you, at any rate whatever is markedly featured in stone or what is like stone is most naturally said to be hewn, and to shape, itself, means in Old English to hew, and the Hebrew bara to create, even, properly means to hew. But life and living things are not naturally said to be hewn, they grow, and their growth is by trickling increment. The first line now stands. Glory is a flame off exploit, so we say. 50. Justice es and c. J. 12. 1. For title, March 17, 89. Autograph in A. Similar autograph in B, which reads line 9, Sir, life on thy great cause. Text from A, which seems the later, being written in the peculiar faint ink of the corrections in B, and embodying them. Early drafts in H. 51. To R. B. April 22, 89. Autograph in A. This, the last poem sent to me, came on April 29. No other copy, but the working drafts in H. In line 6 the word molds was substituted by me for combs of original, when the sonnet was published by Miles, and I leave it, having no doubt that G. M. H. would have made some such alteration. 52. Summa. This poem had, I believe, the ambitious design which its title suggests. What was done of it was destroyed, with other things, when he joined the Jesuits. My copy is a contemporary autograph of 16 lines, written when he was still an undergraduate. I give the first 4. A. 53. What being 2 scraps in H, I take the apparently later one, and have inserted the comma in line 3. 54. On the portrait, and C. Monastereven, Company Kildare, Christmas, 86. Autograph with full title, no corrections, in A. Early drafts in H. 55. The sea took pity. Undated pencil scrap in H. 56. Ash Boughs, my title. In H in 2 versions, first as a curtal sonnet, like 13 and 22, on same sheet with the 4 sonnets 44 to 47, and preceding them, second, an apparently later version in the same meter on a page by itself, with expanded variation from 7th line, making 13 lines for 11. I print the whole of this second MS, and have put brackets to show what I think would make the best version of the poem, for if the bracketed words were omitted the original curtal sonnet form would be preserved and carry the good corrections. The uncomfortable I in the added portion was perhaps to be worked as a vocative referring to first line. 57. Hope holds. In H, a torn undated scrap which carries a vivid splotch of local color. Line 4, a variant has a growing burnish brighter than. 58. St. Winefred. G. M. H. began a tragedy on St. Winefred October 79, for which he subsequently wrote the chorus, number 36, above. He was at it again in 1881, and had mentioned the play in his letters, and when, some years later, I determined to write my Feast of Bacchus in 6 stressed verse, I sent him a sample of it, and asked him to let me see what he had made of the measure. The MS, which he sent me, April 1, 1885, was copied, and that copy is the text in this book, from A, the original not being discoverable. It may therefore contain copyist's errors. 20 years later, when I was writing my Demeter for the lady students at Somerville College, I remembered the first line of Caradoc's soliloquy, and made some use of it. On the other hand, the broken line "I have read her eyes" in my first part of Nero is proved by date to be a coincidence, and not a reminiscence. Caradoc was to die impenitent, struck by the finger of God. 59. What shall I do? Sent me in a letter with his own melody and a note on the poem. This is not final, of course. Perhaps the name of England is too exclusive. Date Clongowr, August 1885. A. 60. The times are nightfall. Revised and corrected draft in H. The first two lines are corrected from the original opening in old syllabic verse. The times are nightfall and the light grows less. The times are winter and a world undone. 61. Cheery beggar. Undated draft with much correction, in H. Text is the outcome. 62 and 63. These are my interpretation of the intention of some unfinished disordered verses on a sheet of paper in H. In 63, line 1, furl is I think unmistakable. An apparently rejected earlier version had soft childhood's carmine dewdrift down. 64. The woodlark. Draft on one sheet of small notepaper in H. Fragments in some disorder. The arrangement of them in the text satisfies me. The word sheath is printed for sheaf of MS, and sheaf recurs in correct tie-ins. Dating of July 5, 76. 65. Moonrise. June 19, 1876. H. Note at foot shows intention to rewrite with one stress more in the second half of each line, and the first is thus rewritten in the white of the dusk, in the walk of the morning. 66. Cuckoo. From a scrap in H without date or title. 67. It being impossible to satisfy myself, I give this MS in facsimile as an example, after page 92. 68. The child is father. From a newspaper cutting with another very poor comic trilet sent me by G. M. H. They are signed Bran. His comic attempts were not generally so successful as this is. 69. The shepherd's brow. In H. Various consecutive full drafts on the same sheet as 51, and date April 3, 89. The text is what seems to be the latest draft. It has no corrections. Thus its date is between 50 and 51. It might be argued that this sonnet has the same right to be recognized as a finished poem with the sonnets 44 to 47, but those had several years' recognition, whereas this must have been thrown off one day in a cynical mood, which he could not have wished permanently to intrude among his last serious poems. 70. To his watch, H. On a sheet by itself, apparently a fair copy with corrections embodied in this text, except that the original 8th line, which is not deleted, is preferred to the alternative suggestion, is sweetest comfort's carol or worst woe's smart. 71. Strike churl. H. On same page with a draft of part of number 45. L. 4. Have at as a correction for aim at. This scrap is some evidence for the earlier dating of the 4 sonnets. 72. Epithalamion. 4 sides of penciled rough sketches, and 5 sides of quarto first draft, on Royal University of Ireland candidate's paper, as if G. M. H. had written it while supervising an examination. Fragments in disorder with erasures and corrections, undated. H. The text, which omits only 2 disconnected lines, is my arrangement of the fragments, and embodies the latest corrections. It was to have been an ode on the occasion of his brother's marriage, which fixes the date as 1888. It is mentioned in a letter of May 25, whence the title comes. I have printed Dean for Dean, in 2 places. In L. 9 of poem cover equals covert, which should be in text as G. M. H. never spelt phonetically. L. 11 of may be at MS. Uncertain. Page 90, line 16, shoots is, I think, a noun. 73. The God I come from. Unfinished draft in H. Undated, probably 85, on same sheet with first draft of number 38. L. 2 day long. MS. As 2 words with accent on day. L. 17. Above the words before me, the words left with me are written as alternative, but text is not deleted. All the rest of this hymn is without question. In L. 19. Yes, right. After the verses printed in text, there is some versified credo intended to form part of the complete poem. Thus, Jesus Christ sacrificed on the cross. Molded, he in maiden's womb, lived and died, and from the tomb rose in power, and is our judge that comes to deal our doom. 74. To him who. Text is an underlined version among working drafts in H. Line 6. Freed equals got rid of, banished. This sense of the word is obsolete. It occurs twice in Shakespeare, CPCYMB. 3. 6. 79. He rings at some distress. Would I could free T. Finus.